Welcome, everybody, to the Texture Pop Podcast. My name is Sam Callahan, and I will be your host for this week. This time around, we got three-fourths of the casting crew.
We have a three-man cast. Just say that.
Sure. I like fractions. So we got Brandon Lee Carey.
Yes. Fractions are good.
That's a good one. I like what you did there. And Garrett Gaziski. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
G squared. Just call him G squared. Jesus Christ.
That's what my math teacher called me.
Call him G-Man.
NSFW does not mean not safe for work. It means nice stuff for werewolves.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
And with that out of the way...
That's on my Twitter.
Should we get right on to the viewer questions?
Yes.
All right.
Brent, do you want to read them or should I?
Oh, yeah. You go ahead and read them.
No, you go ahead.
No.
No, I insist.
Okay. Alright, so these are from Brandon Perkins, aka Other Brandon, of the now 3 Brandons that I know. We should get the other Brandon on the podcast sometime.
I'm going to change my name.
The other Brandon?
Yeah. Should Brandon it up. Anyway, he says, hey guys, I've got my usual batch of questions here, and this time I think I might have a good one. Sadly. Firstly, Anita Sarkeesian, who has been something of an unintentional lightning rod in the ongoing clusterfuck that is Gamergate, recently released her 8-point suggestions for the gaming industry. Although Sarkeesian has a reputation of being a lightning rod, I actually found myself agreeing with most of her suggestions, and even though the ones I didn't agree with I still found quite reasonable. My question is this: what do you think of Sarkeesian's suggestions? Are they reasonable, or are we already in the process of addressing them? We should point out that none of us have watched this video because I completely forgot to check the email for the week.
Honestly, I didn't even know this video existed until today.
Is it? Did it come out like only a few days ago?
It can't. Well, he wrote that email on March 6th, so it was a couple days before this recording.
This isn't like a couple of months old video. This is like brand new.
Yeah, it's pretty recent, I think. It was a recent talk.
Yeah, end of February. Recent.
So specifically, we can't comment on anything regarding that video in particular, but I think we might be able to get away with talking about Anita Sarkeesian in the more general sense, because that woman gets a lot of undeserved flack.
Yes, she does.
Holy hell.
I think
I would have given up if I was her, honestly.
Angry Joe actually had a really good point. People are not only giving her death threats, but they're giving her like rape threats, and he's like, look, if anyone who watches my show does that, I want you to unfollow me and stop watching my content, because that is unacceptable. And also she's not trying to take away your porn, guys. She's
or
just
your games,
trying
for that matter.
Yeah, she's just wanting women to be represented better, and personally I think she has some really good points. I have to agree, and I do think that there is a problem with women in the game industry, and I think that she's really genuinely wanting to address those problems.
I'm even willing to extend that to there's a problem with women in media in the general sense, not just in games.
I mean, technically, you could say it's a problem with women's existence in modern day culture.
Yes, but that's like a whole different conversation. So we can stick to the subset of games for the purposes of our discussion, but like, I think just it's weird how people are like afraid of acknowledging this fact, and it is a fact.
Yeah, Ubisoft is like, we don't want female in lead role. It's hard to program. It's like, fuck you.
Well, they don't think
sales.
Well, yeah, for them they don't. There is this misconception that just because a woman is the protagonist of a game that it won't sell.
It's fucking
which is actually been proven wrong from what I've seen. I've actually read a couple studies on that.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is like there's not enough data to make one solid conclusion one way or the other. You're basically guessing.
It seems like the biggest thing that I've seen, though, as far as the studies that have been done, are just people don't care. Like, men or women, they just really don't care what gender their protagonist is.
Which would make sense, logically.
Yeah. But that just comes down to things like the vocal minority, which is, Ubisoft thinks it's a big problem. A lot of people think that they want male protagonists because those are the people who actually talk about it, whereas the majority of people just don't say anything. Like, I'm not out there on Twitter every day saying, I don't care which, because I'm not going to bother to spend my time telling people how
We'll just stay
how much I
quiet
don't care.
because it's not an issue to us.
Yeah. So it's the people who are the loudest or people just on the side who are just like, I want just dudes, so that gives the impression that that's what they want.
I think the other thing that's worth pointing out in regards to Miss Sarkeesian is just how much the fact that she's a woman has convinced people they can get away with certain things that if, like, I can almost guarantee you if that was, like, Bob Sarkeesian instead, that we would have an entirely different dialogue here. Entirely different.
Yeah. Well, there have definitely
Like,
been
I
males who are very big on feminist issues.
But they don't get anywhere near as many death threats.
Do you think
Or
he actually
just-
would be heralded as like an outspoken hero? Like, he's saying
No.
the issues we need
There
to
are
set.
male feminists, and they do get
Yeah.
death threats, like Bob Chipman from
Okay.
Movie Bob. Or
I was
like
actually-
I could name like 20 people off the top of my head, but no.
I was actually thinking people would be like, "Wow, a guy's making saying these points. I should listen."
Nah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe to some people, but
it's just the moment you mention women in any context, it seems that, like, for some reason, and for a lot of people, just the sheer human decency seems to get thrown out the window. I'm not entirely sure why that is.
cultural problems. I mean, that's an
Like,
I could write an entire
specifically
dissertation.
what the specific problems are. Like, culture, that's a general thing, but
like why in the game industry you mean someone talking about those
Yeah.
problems?
yeah, like why in the game industry is the mere mention of women such an incredibly fearful thing to so many people,
I've certainly
or
heard
not so many. I doubt it's the majority. It's just a bunch
the
of
vocal
la-
minority.
a very loud subset.
I know, I've certainly seen a lot of people say that it might just be due to the way that gaming used to be, like, what's the word I'm looking for?
The
like
boys'
something
club?
made fun of and generally only for guys, but also just like people look down on it, so. And it's also like what I call the digging in your heels effect, which is just, when people start getting made fun of or whatever, they just keep, standing more rigid in that spot, and they just become angrier and angrier about it without willing to move. So imagine
Yeah.
like 20 years of growing up getting told shit for playing games, and like there are definitely women who up until recently would hear about you playing games and be like, wow, that's pretty nerdy, and then get whatever what with the guy. Like, I've even seen Twitter posts from people saying they hate women in games because some women didn't go out with them because they play games, and it's like, that's
I remember
a whole problem.
even in, like, elementary school, there were a lot of girls in my classes that played Crash and Spyro, and we talked a lot about it just because it's something we had in common.
I don't know anybody personally, but I don't know what regional affects that, or just if I was just unlucky in that case. or
Probably
what.
just an unlucky, like, random number generator in your sense.
Yeah.
The random number generator of fate.
Yeah, so I can definitely say, speaking personally, it's not, I don't get angry about anything, but it's definitely strange just because all of a sudden when I went to college, it's like, oh wait, I know tons of women who play games, but that just came out of fucking nowhere from me. Like, all throughout, grade school, I never spoke to, like, more than, like, maybe one woman who played video games.
Maybe it's because I live in Delaware and there's jack shit to do in Delaware,
I don't know.
but, like, most people I know play at least one or two games.
You play League of Legends or League of Legends?
Oh god, League of Legends.
Or today's also the fact that I am a computer science major, so just by virtue of the subset I choose to work with, a lot of us play games because we're in programming.
I'm getting a computer simulation and game design major, and there are quite a number of girls in the class, and they all play video games except one. But she's also
Again, that's also because, like, you're in the
yeah,
You're in the
but,
field
like,
where
a lot
that
of
would happen.
Yeah, like, a lot of-
like,
but like there's a large number of girls in the class. Now, obviously, they all play video games again, except that one, and she's also failing, and nobody likes her. But
Well, that's...
why would you go
she-
into a game design degree if you don't like video games?
Well, you
Good
said it was
question.
Computer simulation, that's what you said it was?
Yeah. Computer
Probably
simulation
something
and
else.
game design.
Oh,
And
game
game
design.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, and game design. It's like the teacher actually asked her. He's like, "Why are you here if you don't know computer stuff?" She goes, "I don't know. It sounded interesting, I guess."
I don't think we should go into whatever her personal life is
She'll
about.
probably end up dropping
Sure.
out.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of girls in the class, and almost all of them play video games. But that's the thing, is that there are a large number of girls in the class that have taken an interest not only in gaming but in game design. There are plenty of so it's and again that is college and high school though. I'm kind of with Brendan on this. There were girls who played some of the more they did play games, whether they had the cartoon characters or serious games. I think the serious games that was a little rarer, but that still happened occasionally. But yeah, in college there's a huge turnaround for that.
Yeah, I think college is definitely the big open up for that kind of thing.
Well, college. When you enter college, you enter a world where no one gives a shit about
Anything.
if you have this weird like quirk about you, everyone does. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But
So-
like, just going back to the topic of Sarkeesian, I just think to wrap this up, I appreciate someone talking about this, even if I don't necessarily have to agree with every single point she poses. I think just in the general sense that we have somebody who's willing to talk about these issues is a good thing.
yeah, I'm totally all for her.
It
Like,
did
you know.
not answer your question at all, Adonis, but I think you can get a good enough view of what we would have said if we had actually watched this based on this
Yeah.
conversation.
I think even though Chris is not here, which I did forget to mention, he's out for this week.
He'd agree. I know
Uh,
him.
Yeah, I was like, I think I can speak for all of us when I say we're all pretty much all for her. Even though we don't agree with everything she says, I'm generally for her.
Hell, if you want to talk about any keys, and Chris and I did that on episode, the one that Gamergate Gators
It's,
commented on.
12, I believe. It's called Project Hate Zone. I know that's what it's called.
I'll link it in the show notes
Yeah.
if you want to hear Chris's thoughts on her, because I think we did talk about that at some point during that cast.
Well, I got comments, so probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, as a follow-up, moving on to lighter things. Here's a general question which says, what games are you guys looking forward to in the next couple of months? I personally only have 2 pre-orders, Mortal Kombat X and Witcher 3. Thanks, Adonis. Thanks, Adonis.
Witcher 3, Bloodborne, possibly Halo 5.
Well, I'm thinking next couple months, like up until the summer would be what I would guess.
Oh.
Not that it really matters that much, but that's mostly because I'm trying to see if you guys can make me think of anything that I forgot about coming out.
I'm
This is-
looking at the Wikipedia list of anticipated releases.
Yeah, because the problem I've had is that I'm looking
I can't
forward
think
to,
of any off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Grand Theft Auto 5 coming to PC.
no, it's
God.
not gonna happen. It's gonna get delayed till
It's gonna get delayed
2016. Hot news, got delayed. Never coming out. But I think that's the funny thing is that like I know Type 0 HD's coming out, and I was like, you know what? It looks cool, whatever. So I'm gonna get that next week. That comes
Oh
out on
right,
PS4.
Type 0.
Right.
I was planning to get that. It didn't cross my mind.
Yeah, it looks cool. And then Bloodborne's coming out in 2 weeks, so that's a big deal for me.
Bloodborne's gonna be awesome.
Other than that, though, like I'm trying to look around and see if I can think of anything, but it's like the rest of Life is Strange. I'm excited for that.
Arkham Knight comes out in June.
I can't get too excited about another Batman game. I've played the first 3, and I'm getting kind of tired. Definitely Witcher 3,
I think
which
the
he said.
Wolfenstein standalone DLC is coming out in a month or two.
Yeah, I think it's like a month. That's going to be cool. I am excited for The Witcher 3. I've always wanted to go back, and I'm about halfway through the book, The Last Wish, and I really want to go play the games, but it's like that's a really hard game to just sit down and say, I'm just going to tackle this before the next one comes out. That's a really tall order. But I'm definitely going to get that at some point. MGS5, does Phantom Pain come out anytime soon, or is that like... Oh, we did get a release date, but wasn't that the end of the year? It's like September?
I'm waiting for... I don't know if this counts, but like when Life is Strange is fully released and when Tales of Borderlands fully released, I'm looking forward to those coming out.
Yeah, Tales of the Borderlands, I'm kind of iffy
Because I'm
about.
not gonna get any of those games until they're fully like released.
I Can't say I'm too excited about Mortal Kombat X. I know a couple of my friends who were extremely excited about it, but they're all like fighting game fans.
And I mean, it doesn't come out in the next couple months, but Persona 4 or 5 is going to Persona 5 is going to come out this year.
Yeah.
I didn't say that we say Persona 4 because it's my favorite Persona game.
That's okay, because Persona 3 is the best Persona game.
But Persona 5 is going to come out this year, and hopefully it becomes best Persona game.
I'm okay with that. I can dig it. I hope that every new Persona game is the best Persona game. I hope every sequel becomes the best version of that game.
I hope every Persona game does not have a tsundere.
Oh, why you gotta go there? Why you gotta be like that?
It's fuck Marie.
Why you gotta be against the tsunderes?
It's too anime for an already anime game.
That game is anime.
Yes.
How much more anime can you not
I don't
handle?
need more anime. I have enough anime.
You know what you should do? You should just watch some anime. That'll solve it.
No.
Anyway,
yeah, like the
it's
next
kind of a
couple
weird...
months seem kind of bland.
Yeah, it's really, and to be fair, that's pretty normal. But I felt like the last year or two, we kind of got to that point where it looked like it kind of looked like the summer and the spring were actually starting to gain some traction the past year or so, and that new releases were coming year round. But now it's just back to what it's been
kind of
like the past decade.
It's like a problem with the whole next generation of consoles, to be honest. It's like, since the PS4 and Xbox One came out, it's like no developer wants to release anything, probably because they're still trying to figure out how the hell to program on these new consoles.
Yeah, you're probably right in that it's probably just going to be another year or two before we get into full swing.
Apparently, Bastion comes out next month on the PS4.
That's cool. Bastion's cool.
I mean, if I hadn't already played it.
Yeah, I've played it like 3 times now, so I'm kind of good. But yeah, I think you're right in that it's just new consoles, so developers just don't want to risk releasing something on a bad month when they don't know how to fully do it well.
Last year was the year of many gamers getting through their backlogs.
Yeah.
And I anticipate much of this year will be the same thing.
And you know what, to a certain degree, I'm kind of fine with that, because we're getting more and more releases at the end of each year that it's like we kind of need more time to get through all this shit.
Yeah, to digest everything.
And to be fair, I say that there aren't many games coming out, and when I say that, I generally mean big releases, because the indie scene is always alive. Like, I know that, Hollow Miami came out today.
Well, it's so big, the indie scene, that you really can't follow it all. You can just kind of hope that what the good gems cross your path at some point.
Yeah. But I mean, Hotline Miami 2 came out today, which is a big deal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan, but it's seems pretty excited. And then
I enjoyed the first one, but I don't know if I enjoyed it enough for a sequel.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so that'll do it for viewer questions for this week. Hey,
sorry for the mediocre answers this week.
Yeah. It's I've had a very tired week. I'd probably get more enthusiasm if I had done some... The problem is I didn't look it up beforehand. If I read this email a few days ago, I would have watched the video, I would have looked on Wikipedia.
I would have too. I feel bad.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe next week I can look up a Wikipedia list for anticipated games and see if I can add anything.
Yeah.
That's for another time. Hey, Garrett, do you know where they can email stuff to us?
At thetexturepop.com.
So close.
Yeah.
We don't have a website yet.
If you have...
thetexturepop@gmail.com.
What was it?
Stole my thunder.
What was it, Garrett?
What was it?
What was it, Brandon?
If you have an email to send us with a question, comment, or anything else you want us to read on the air, please send it to us at thetexturepop@gmail.com. Or you can message us on Twitter at thetexturepop.
That's right. And with that, do you want to roll right on into news?
Sure. We got 2 big stories to talk about. The rest we didn't feel like we had enough to really talk about. The first is the announcement of the Steam Machine and controller. Their finalized designs.
It's getting less weird.
Have you seen
Xbox
Did you see the Steam controller yet, Garrett? The new one?
I have seen the Steam controller, yes.
Okay, so we all know what it looks like.
It still looks bizarre to me.
Well, it's funny that every revision makes it look more and more like a 360 controller. Because, it's funny that Valve initially set out to make something, brand new and bold, and it was it's going to be great for PC games. But eventually they just kind of went well, what works, works.
Yeah, that's the thing is that we kind of know what a controller's supposed to feel like now, even if
Yeah.
like it might not be the perfect, most ergonomic design for a controller, but it's what we expect, and
I
that's
mean,
what
to
we're
be
gonna
fair,
buy.
like the PS4 and the 360, like you can get real technical about like how thick the grips are, things like that. But as far as like button placement on
But the
both, they
general
are
design is the
amazing.
same.
Yeah, and they're pretty incredible as far as like where button placement is. Like people have really taken a long time to figure out where to put these buttons, and they thought real hard about it. So it's kind of like when I first saw the Valve controller, in which two of the face buttons were on either side, and it didn't have analog sticks; it had those little
There's
concave pads.
yeah.
I was like, okay, that's cool and all, but it looks like the least ergonomic controller I've seen in my
I
life.
just still looking at it, I still can't imagine choosing it over just getting a 360 controller and plugging it into my computer and using it that way.
Yeah. It seems like the only way you'd want to use it is if you were specifically trying to play a PC game. But the
Yeah.
problem with that is, like, in what situation, I think somebody brought up, like, the one they could think of was, like, Civ 5, which makes kind of sense.
Well, probably like a Dragon Age game, maybe.
Maybe, but it's like, you got to think of a game that doesn't have controller support, and or is so much better with mouse control, but not regular mouse control. Specifically something that the pad could work with, but also doesn't have too many buttons because the controller
Like, 'cause
only
if-
has so many. Like,
'cause
it's
if you're
such a
m-
specific, like, niche thing that it needs to operate
If you're
on.
most people, you'll have both a keyboard and a mouse and a controller on hand, and it's because they're not that expensive. They're pretty cheap,
Yeah.
so you can just get a little bit of each, and then you'll be all set for most issues you'd be having playing a game. Like if you're not like an elite, like someone who does MLG and stuff, you just need a basic keyboard. You don't need anything fancy.
Yeah. I would, if you guys, I would love to see, like, some comments or just something that just tells me, like, what kind of games would this controller work for? Because I've heard Civilization 5, which makes sense to me. No controller support, it has just enough buttons. The mouse pad would work pretty well for that. But I literally cannot think of any other game that would work with that specific controller setup.
Well, yeah, you can extend that to like any like Fire-Axis turn-based strategy game.
Yeah, but like I wonder if RTSs would work okay with that or not. Like I don't know if it's precise enough to do draw boxes.
Well, you have to actually like play with it to discover that on your
Yeah,
own.
I've heard it feels pretty alright, but it just like it's I don't know.
And as
It's
for
worse for
this,
the kind of person.
as for the Steam machines themselves, they announced they're going to have all sorts of price ranges, ranging from I think it was like $450 for the cheapest one to like $8,000 for the most expensive Steam machine.
In which case, you're better off just building your own computer
Building
for
it-
about
yeah,
$2,000.
That's my thought. Is like at that point you might as well just buy a PC or hell even an Alienware at that point is more economical.
Yeah. That's always the weird thing to me.
Then you
When
could
get
just-
to like pre-built PCs of that high, it's like it would be cheaper
Then
to
you just
buy
get
your
an
own parts and
HDMI
hire someone to
cable.
build it.
Then just get an HDMI cable and put in your TV like you were going to with that Steam machine anyway.
Yeah, I mean, unless those $8,000 ones are the same size as the $450
You
ones,
could get a
there's no reason.
PC. You could get a PC plus a phenomenal home theater setup for that price.
Yeah, you get a hell of a TV, or you could get a couple of 4K monitors. And you could, for $8,000, you could probably get a couple of Titan X's, the new one, a
Yeah.
4K monitor, and like brand new Intel and mouse, keyboard, everything. You could build
Because I'm thinking
a
if, like,
hell
if
of a
you're-
setup.
I'm thinking if you're buying like if you're making a PC, you could spend like maybe, well, we'll say at the most 3,000 on parts. We'll say.
Yeah, most people spend about $1,000 and a half from
Yeah.
what I've seen.
I want to say like you're getting the top of the line.
Oh
shit.
yeah, then yeah, like upwards of 3.
Yeah,
you're building
we'll
from
say that
scratch.
that's the cap. We'll cap you off at $3,000 for there. Then like getting a decent TV costs about 2,500. We'll say, not like the top of the line TVs, but like something that's really good but not like breaking the bank.
Right.
Then that still leaves you $3,000 to finish up by getting a decent sound system and all the wires and shit you need to hook it all up.
So we're saying it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, so at that point you might as well just get the whole home theater set up with a good PC, and then just there's your PC gaming.
I got
Get a decent couch, keyboard and mouse. You're done.
I got my custom setup, and I still love it. Still works for me.
Or a good office chair if you find those comfortable.
I don't, but it's what I got.
I don't. I'd personally. I have a recliner I'm sitting in right now. So
All right. What else we got on the news list?
the other one is that Maxi has been shut down by EA.
Is it Maxi or
Which-
Maxis?
Maxis.
Right.
Yeah. the people who made SimCity, the new one,
Yeah, but isn't that supposed to be like the main?
all the old ones.
Yeah, that's like the main Maxis studio, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, which is the one that Will Wright left probably almost a
Yeah, it's
decade ago
just
now.
like- yeah, it's just like another story of EA clearly not knowing what to do with all these companies it purchases.
It's very strange, just the way they do it. I mean, like, Jem Sterling did a pretty good video on it, which is why I didn't think I had much to say, but just to reiterate him, EA has this really weird habit of, like, buying something and then just sucking all of the possible money it can out of it. In this case, like, hey, make a new Sims, a new SimCity, and then as soon as those start failing, they just kick them off.
Well, what's weird is that
It's monopolizing.
they don't suck all the money they can out of it, they suck all the easy money they can out of it. Like, because if you're thinking long term, there's a lot more you could have gotten out of Max if you hadn't have made such shitty games with them.
Yep, always online DRM, man. Don't do it.
And that's kind of like a problem with just modern day business culture in general, is that you're generally more rewarded for short term gains as opposed to longer term planning.
Yes.
Because you're a CEO, you get paid for seeing profits rise, and if profits aren't rising, you aren't getting paid.
Also true.
But it's just the business side of games has never really been good. Just because in general was rarely ever good. And I would just love to be a fly on the wall for all these meetings as to how they decide all the things that ultimately affect whether a company stays in business or not. Because I think that would be very fascinating. And very revealing. In probably a bad way.
I was going to say, it'd probably be very depressing is what it would be.
But those are my thoughts on it. Do you have anything to add, Garrett, Sam?
Not really.
I got nothing.
Not really, yeah.
All right, with that said, I think we can move on into our main segment.
All right. So, anybody got some burning things they want to talk about first?
Sure, I'll
Cannot
start this off.
Okay.
All right.
So, this week, the snow has basically canceled my Wednesday through Friday classes.
That's impressive.
So, I had a good chunk of free time to devote to playing some games.
And you played Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, you wish.
You played Persona 3. And we're like, man, it needs more tsunderes.
Oh, you really wish.
Don't I always?
That's bordering a delusion. No, what I actually played is I played this really interesting new game that's sort of become my new favorite, or at least my new recent favorite. It's called Hand of Fate.
Oh yes, I've seen your Twitter talk about this. You seem to love it very much.
I do. I have some problems with it, but I do in general. I think the game is very fascinating, in that like none of the concepts are particularly original, but the originality comes from the way they were all combined to this one package. So for those of you who aren't aware, the basic premise of Hand of Fate is, what if I combined Dungeons and Dragons with a collectible card game and made a video game out of that? The way it works is that you are playing against this dealer, and he is your primary antagonist throughout the game. And you build a deck of equipment cards and a deck of encounter cards. So when it's time to play a match, the dealer will take those decks, add his own cards to them, and then he'll make a dungeon map out of encounter cards that from your deck. So you wander through these encounters, looking for the exit to the next floor, and so on until you until you find and defeat the boss of the dungeon you're in. And the way they kind of inhibit your ability to explore is that every step you take in the dungeon consumes a portion of food. And if you run out of food, you begin to starve and lose health.
Okay.
So you want to explore so you can accumulate resources like health, food, and gold. and new weapons, because you have an initial layout. It's a roguelike, so you have this these default equipment, but you can gain equipment by getting draws from your equipment deck that you've set up. So like I start out with an axe and a shield, but if I get an equipment a draw for an equipment card, I might be able to get one of those really cool swords I put in my deck, or like one of those really cool sets of armor. So you want the accumulate resources, but at the same time you want to make sure you don't run out of food, because if you starve to death, you've lost because you died.
You cease to exist, therefore you have lost.
And one of the coolest things is that once you like go into an encounter, like if you one of your encounters leads to a battle, the dealer will like draw some monster cards from the encounter deck. Like if I draw like the 2 of bandits, then in the fight it will spawn 2 bandits. And there's also skeleton monsters, lizard men monsters, and ratmen monsters that you fight. Those are the 4 primary suits. They are dust, skulls, scales, and plague, respectively. So when you draw these, they spawn into the arena, and you actually fight them with Arkham-style combat, where you are basically building up a hit chain, and as you continue this chain, your attacks become faster and stronger. But if an enemy hits you, you break the chain, and you have to start over from the beginning. It's actually really interesting the way they combine all of these elements together, because like I said, none of these are particularly original ideas. You've probably seen some of these thoughts in other games, just in the general sense, but the way they are all brought together makes it a really interesting package, and it's really worth checking out if you're into these kinds of games and if you're into designing games. So Garrett, I recommend you get this just to play it and see how it works.
Absolutely.
And the thing that really brings it all together is the antagonist, which is that dealer I was telling you about earlier. Because as you go through the dungeons, he will talk about what you're doing, and he's basically there to kind of antagonize you throughout the whole game, because he does not want you to win. But at the same time, he will not try to cheat you out of a victory. He wants to beat you fair and square. So you get this little relationship between them where he at first kind of just starts hating you because you're another new player in his game, but then he starts begrudgingly respecting you, and once you start beating all of his challenges, he starts to get outright malicious towards you towards the end. It was like, please stop winning so much. It's getting really annoying. And just the way he talks to you, because he doesn't repeat lines very often, but he does repeat them every once in a while. So it feels like you're talking to an actual person as you're playing this game, and it's really fascinating how they got that working.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it definitely seems like a case where I wouldn't be interested to play it for the actual gameplay parts so much as just the setup and atmosphere of it.
It's really atmospheric, and it's really stylish. Because it has this gothic painting style to it,
yeah,
which is just really pretty to look at, and it's very colorful as well. It's become this really fascinating game for me, and I would encourage other people to check it out. Even though, if you're playing on the PS4 version, do expect a couple of technical issues. I've had a couple of problems with the game, with the sounds bugging out for no real reason, and I've had a couple of crashes throughout the game. Fortunately, aside from one crash, it's usually not too bad. On the PS4,
and you took them all in stride, as I saw on Twitter.
on the PS4 version in particular, there is a bug where once you defeat the final boss, the game will crash and your save file will corrupt.
How did that pass playtesting?
I have no idea.
You think somebody would beat the game and go, oh, the game crashes every time?
But I did it twice and it happened the same way both times, so I'm not eager to try for a third time to be doubly sure.
So do you have to play through the whole game again?
Yes.
So when are you going to play through it again? Like
I am starting it right now, actually.
Great. Can't wait for it to crash again.
Well, I'm not going to fight the final boss.
You're just gonna get up to there, then wait
I'm going
like
to
a
wait.
month.
I'm going to waiting for the patch to come out.
Hot patch fixes the final boss.
Or I'll just keep playing endless mode instead, because the game does offer that alternative where endless mode, you basically play with all the cards you've accumulated thus far, and you just keep playing in the game until you die. And there is no bosses. It's just you play and go deeper and deeper into the dungeon until you can no longer proceed. And then you get a score based on how far you went and what you did along the way.
Interesting.
So it'll probably end up, if when it comes out, and it probably will, given how quickly I've been going through this third playthrough of the game, I'll probably end up just doing endless mode every once in a while just to keep my skills up, because it's a really fun game to start to master.
All right, cool.
Aside from that, the other game I was playing this week, because I've had the time to do that, is Dragon Age 2.
I like Dragon Age 2. I defended it on the podcast in the past. So let's get right into it.
I don't have any problems with it yet. I decided this playthrough, which is probably going to be the only playthrough I make of this game. I am playing as a male mage named Mike Hawk.
Oh, you chose a great last name. Really glad you picked that one yourself.
Well, Hawk is the last name that you can't change. So I decided if I'm going to have Hawk, I'm going to make him Mike Hawk.
Is that a reference to something I don't get?
Say it 5 times real fast.
Mike Hawk.
Mike Hawk?
Did you know that
Mike
Mike Hawk
Hawk
once punched out a bank robber?
I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's just say that Mike Hawk should not open a dentistry anytime soon, because I'll make a lot of jokes if he does.
Anyway, so
I've
how's
heard
it
Mike
been?
Hawk is a badass.
It's a euphemism for Mike Hawk.
Oh! Oh!
Jesus Christ, Sam.
No, I already knew. That was me pretending to be the viewer. I figured it out after the first time I said it.
Mike
I
Hawk.
just didn't want to give you the pleasure. So, how's the game been for you? How far have you gotten?
I am in Act 2.
Okay. Making progress. Act 2 is is that when you finally go into the deep roads?
I finished the expedition already.
Oh, is that the end of Act 1 then? I don't
Yeah,
remember that
that's the
game
end
too
of
well.
That's the end of Act 1 is the Deep Rose expedition. When Varric's brother becomes all fucking lunatic.
It's all crazy.
Yeah. Because, magic.
So how have you found the environment reuse?
I find it honestly kind of irritating. Like, it would be
I was never really bothered by it personally.
I'd be okay with it if it was just you going to the same areas, because the game sets it up as if you were watching the city grow over years. So you end up revisiting a couple areas over the years. That would make total sense to me.
Right.
I'm not sure why they didn't just do that instead.
Does money,
But
time.
well, I mean, if you're revisiting the same area, you're still using the same assets. So
I don't know.
you just like put some extra moss or something on the wall to emphasize that it's changed.
So we need a middleware tool like Speed Tree, except it's Speed Moss, Speed Decay.
Yeah. So I guess it's not too bad, but it's noticeable to such a degree that it actually kind of breaks my immersion.
Yeah.
For me, it's
can
like,
see that.
oh yeah, we're going to this fucking cave again, even though it's apparently a totally different place than the last time I was in this cave.
Yeah, the cave is probably the worst defender out of all of them. I didn't find the city to be that bad, but like the fact that there's only one outdoor environment, well, 2 technically, it's pretty poor. But like the game was never like long enough to really irritate me, and it's, I don't know, it never really bothered me.
It's not
personally.
irritating, but it's immersion breaking.
Yeah, I suppose. Like I said, I didn't find much problem with it, but it
also
depends on your tolerance for that kind of thing.
I don't hate the combat, but there is this issue, which I also had in Origins, where there's just like way too much of it.
Yeah, I could definitely
It's
see
like,
that.
oh yeah, there's this one group. I killed them. Oh wait, there was another group here, and then there is always a second group. There
Yeah.
is never just one group of enemies you have to kill. It's always 2, maybe 3.
I've definitely heard a complaint about the game is that because of the way that their environments are so constrained, the enemies tend to come in waves.
Yes,
Which is-
and it's really freaking irritating.
Yeah, that's definitely bad. I prefer the combat in 2 over Origins just because of the speed of it.
I mean, the combat in general has a better feel to it, but God, there needs to be like half as much.
Yeah.
There is no reason for me to be killing so many people.
So a curious question is, since have you played Inquisition? I don't think you have.
Not yet.
Okay. You
I
probably at
refuse
least
to play it until I finish Dragon Age 2.
fair enough. That's probably for the best considering how many references there are, more than you would think. So what do you, just because no one ever seems to talk about this, what do you think about the art style in Dragon Age 2 compared to Origins?
I mean, I'm playing on low settings, so the assets aren't really that particularly great.
I mostly mean like character designs and such.
They seem okay. I mean, it does seem a little darker in like style than Origins did. I remember Origins had a lot more color than Dragon Age 2 did.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Age 2 seemed just to kind of have this bland palette, which I don't honestly care too much for.
Yeah, I found it kind of curious because it almost seems like they were almost going for like a more comic book graphic novel look that I thought could have made for more expressive characters.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do, but you know, it depends on kind of what you want. Like it's almost like the Wind Waker effect of do you want really extremely expressive characters, or do you like Dragon Age Inquisition has a lot more like subtlety in the facial animations.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you want.
Dragon Age 2 could have definitely, in terms of color palette, had a bit more color and a bit more saturation of color.
Yeah.
It just feels kind of bland.
I also had
color choice.
I had a couple of mods installed for Dragon Age characters that were pretty interesting.
But the actual character designs themselves, I don't have too much of an issue with. I like most of them, like for the main cast you play with.
Yeah, and I found most of the members to be pretty memorable. Like Varric's the obvious.
My party consists of Varric, Isabella, and Anders.
Why would you choose Anders? He's the worst.
Oh yeah, fuck Anders.
Yeah,
I
think that's pretty universally known.
I liked him in Awakening. I did.
I never played
I don't
Awakening.
know what they did to him in the transition, but like,
oh, I hate
the Anders in Awakening
I'm so
was
angry.
the Anders in Awakening was witty and sarcastic and all that shit. But like this
Full of
guy
life.
is just like, well, let's not go too far.
So let me just
But
tell
like
you.
but like
Good.
in Awakening, when you had Anders in your party, he would always have a sarcastic quip no matter what the situation was. Just to make the situation just a little bit lighter. In this game, he is the most brooding motherfucker I've ever met.
He played Prince of Persia 2. That's what happened.
He broods more than Fenris.
And Fenris is actually kind of cool in his brooding way, though. He's just kind of almost like melancholy.
I've actually had Varric and Fenris in the party at the same time once, and Varric's like, "Hey, when are you going to stop brooding?" And Fenris like, "I don't brood."
Putting Varric with like anybody is always a great time.
I love Varric. He's so funny.
He's
And
just a staple.
Isabella is also a riot to have in your party.
Yeah. So, in regards to Anders, though, funny thing is, you know how in The Walking Dead, Kenny became an asshole just because the story dictated that he had to reach a certain point in the story?
Yes.
That's basically with Anders. His character is like that because
you don't have to bother. You don't have to worry about not spoiling. I already know.
Okay, so you know that like his character is like that because he has to reach point B in the story, like, and that the only way that makes any sense whatsoever is if he's the worst fucking character in the entire game.
Well, the thing is, he's basically an abomination, just one that has some degree of self-control.
Yeah,
because
he's also the worst character in the game.
Not. Well, it's because the spirit possessing him is not evil like the demons that possess most abominations.
He's also the worst character in the game.
Fortunately for him, having a mage in the party that's not me, like having him do his mage thing to detect demons and shit in conversations, is pretty helpful. Also, he's better than Carver.
Yeah. Oh, right, because you have the brother. That only happens if you play a mage. Otherwise, you always get your sister.
And oh my god, I'm
awesome.
so I'm so sick of the pissy little brother every fucking 5 minutes.
I don't remember Bethany being all that bad.
Well, I've heard Bethany is good, but like Carver is basically always his entire character arc is I'm sick of being like the worst. I'm sick of you being better than me all the time.
Oh no, Bethany's not like that at all. So basically, you're playing Dragon Age 2 with some of the worst characters in the game. Congratulations.
Well, I remember Carver is like, you need the Deep Rose acquisition, right? And I was like, nope. Fucking nope. You are not.
Go home and go complain with the fucking uncle.
Nope. I have no need to take care of a pissy little brother like you. Go piss off.
What do you think of, what is it? It's not Meryl. What's her name?
It is Meryl.
Oh, it is Meryl. Right, it's just spelled weird. Because I thought she was pretty alright. Although her motivations for her blood magic seemed a little weak to me.
I don't really have anything to say about her, honestly.
I know the character, I don't know if you read much of Kara Ellis and stuff. She has that S.exe articles she writes every once in a while. She did one for, oh god, what's her name? It's the captain of the guard in Dragon Age 2.
Evelyn.
She did a great article about her, which was pretty
I like Evelyn. She's fun, although the problem is that she's not Isabella.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of, like, her character, though.
And Isabella is my waifu.
That's the title of the episode right there.
I have decided to romance Isabella.
Oh, good. Things can only go well from here.
Hey, it's better than fucking Anders.
Yeah.
And the game seems to want you to romance Anders for some reason.
Are you playing as a male or female? Right,
like,
isn't Anders...
I'm a male. I'm playing as a guy.
Yeah. I was like, is Anders gay? I can't remember.
He's probably bisexual given BioWare's
Oh, yeah, true.
history.
Pretty much, yeah, every game has had one at least.
Yeah.
Iron Bull.
But the thing with Anders is that you can't just, like, be polite to him. You either are... There's a lot of times in this dialogue trees where you're either lovers or dick. And I don't want to be either one. I just want to be friends. Can we just be like Mage Bros?
No, I have to have the D.
I don't want to have sex with
friends? Why can't we be friends?
Can't we just be Mage Bros?
No, you have to bang.
Like,
bang
cast
or get out.
fireballs. I cast fireballs, and we can both be cool fireball bros.
Nope, we have to bang. It's the only way.
Needs the D.
That's the episode title. We have to bang. It's the only way.
Or Mage Bros.
Why can't we just be Mage Bros?
I'll just keep writing all these down.
Oh. But in the general sense, I don't hate Dragon Age 2 yet. BioWare has this thing with me where I tend to really... I don't tend to hate their early games. It's usually the late game stuff that pisses me off.
Yeah, the late game in Dragon Age 2 is weird, and the final climactic stuff that I guess you already know partly about kind of sucks.
And I do like Varric. They're using Varric as a narrator.
Yeah,
I like that story device, especially during his companion quest, where he doesn't want to talk about the fact that his brother has completely gone off the deep end. So he makes up this story about him killing all the guards and then shooting his brother in the face and saying that's it. That's what happened.
That reminds me. You ever played a game called Call of War as Gunslinger?
I've
Aaron
heard
Signal
of
did
it.
a video on it.
I've heard of it, not played it.
Yeah. Have you seen the Aaron Signal video on it?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. I kind of wish that they had done a bit more of that, though, where it's a lot of, because they do that in the beginning of Dragon Age 2, where Varric basically just completely fudges the details of the story, and I kind of wish they had used that to a bit more effect.
Yeah. I love unreliable narrator tropes.
Yeah.
That just, as general as a trope, I love that. I think that's really, funny to me. That provides me with the source of humor. Until the story has Carver, because Carver's a prick, and I hate him.
And I think, for whatever problems you may have about Dragon Age 2 when you finish it, I think you're going to be a lot better off going into Inquisition, knowing all that, especially since Cassandra and Varric are in it. There's mention of Meryl, and, all the other characters in Dragon Age 2 are mentioned. Not many from Origins.
And even
really.
worse, at the end of Act 1, Carver becomes a Templar.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
Because, you're in a family of mages, the obvious thing to do is to join the Templar Order.
whereas Bethany just becomes cooler by the minute.
And he starts out with a halfway to the rival end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So yeah, fuck Carver. He's a prick.
I will say, interesting thing is that when you get to past the very beginning of Dragon Age Inquisition and you get the chance to talk to people, it's really cool when you go to Varric because you can just straight up say, so what happened to everybody from Dragon Age 2? And he just one line by one line, he'll go through your keep status and he'll be like, alright, so here's what happened to Meryl, here's what happened to Carver or Bethany, depending. He's like, here's what happened to Hawk, and
it's basically making sure that your save data transferred correctly.
Yeah. But it immersion breaking or whatnot, just because it's just reading from a file, it is pretty cool just to hear that they went on to do stuff with their lives. And I have no idea whether or not you see, some of these people, but I've met up with at least half the cast of Dragon Age 2 at this point. It's pretty interesting.
It's not bad so far. There are a couple of noticeable ones. They need to, of course, Origins had that problem where there was too much fighting as well. I remember we were talking about Origins before. It's God damn, can't you just stay dead?
I think it's one of those things though where Dragon Age is an okay RPG. It's just not a great Dragon Age game. It's just the name alone that kind of kills it.
Yeah.
Because they're known for better. But it's fine. It's an okay RPG. I'd say it's worth playing for anyone interested.
Yeah, I mean,
just the once.
I still have to see how the late game affects my view of the game because
I don't remember much of Act 2. I remember a lot of Act 3.
I find that when it comes to RPGs, it is impossible to play for 5 hours and know whether you like the game because usually it's the end game stuff that determines how good the game really is.
It's just like Destiny.
Not the beginning game stuff.
Destiny is the greatest RPG. That's how it works. It's all in the end game. You said it was all about the end game, and I was like, well, that's Destiny. There you go.
Well, the end game of Destiny is shit.
But it's the best part.
It's garbage.
But it's the best part.
If the best part is garbage, it's still garbage.
I don't know. I haven't gotten there. I still have to level up my light.
Level up your light.
Yeah, it's fun time.
Get your Keyblade and fight some Heartless then.
I had a coworker of mine who apparently recently bought a PS2 just the other day because he wanted to play all of those classic games he played as a kid. So he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna play Kingdom Hearts 2," and I was like, "Well, they remastered it for the PS3." He's like, "Oh," it's like, "What about Ico Shadow of the Colossus remastered for PS3? Jak and Daxter remastered for PS3, Ratchet and Clank remastered for PS3." And he's like, "So I should have just gotten a PS3," and I was like, "Yes, you should have."
Yes.
Yes, you should have, and then just bought them all on the PS4.
Final Fantasy X, PS3, and PS4 now. It's dude, just
coming soon to PS4.
Sly Cooper. Yeah. Sly Cooper remastered.
PS3.
The worst thing is that I own most of those.
I just think it's hilarious. It's
PS3.
any with rare exceptions for hidden gems, any big game worth a damn moved onto the PS3.
Even Hitman moved to the PS3 too through the collection.
I just found that kind of sad. And then he was telling me, oh, whatever. I'll get to that later.
Those two games made up my week, so we can go on to what you were saying just now.
Oh, just go right on to me since I was breaking in.
Yeah.
Well, I guess to finish that off, I've been trying my hand because I've got a PS2, but I don't want to hook it up, and I've got all these games that I keep buying. So the other night I was like, I'm just gonna set up an emulator and see what happens. And that's interesting. I have not gotten started a game yet because I haven't.
Interesting in a good or a bad way.
Well, I'm interested just because of the videos I've seen, and I have a friend of mine who's been emulating some stuff. Unfortunately, I haven't tried enough to say much of anything, because I want to hook up my PS4 controller and have it, do button mapping and all that stuff. But I'm gonna try to play Drakengard since I don't have to hook up a PS2 in that case.
I remember Drakengard.
Yeah, I was recently
watching it.
Yeah,
that's the only one I've ever played.
Yeah, I was recently rewatching a video by this guy I know, Demolition D+, and he did a video on Drakengard 3 and how great it was, and he was like, it's a really weird RPG, but if you can get into it, it's pretty awesome. And I was like, alright, so went and bought it and then got this. And I was like, I guess I'm going to try and see if the emulation can put on
Drakengard is a fascinating and just weird game.
That's what I've heard, is
especially
that the guy
if you go to the
it's just fucking nuts.
If you go with the alternate endings, it's even weirder because the alternate ending, the original ending you get is pretty bad, but like the more you unlock, you find the worse the endings get.
Like worse as in like graphic, not like actual
No, as in
quality?
like worse, as in the fate of the world is in even worse state than it
Oh,
was
great.
in the original ending.
So that's kind of funny because with Drakengard 3, his main reason for making the video is that so many people reviewed it poorly based on the first ending. So is that it just I guess that's just a thing with that series. Is that there are
Yeah,
multiple endings and the first one always sucks. I don't know. Like apparently that's what happened in 3. Like he said like the best ending is like the last one. And I was like, that's a lot of work.
well, the last one in Drakengard 1 is the most interesting one, to say the least. But I don't want to say anything more because potential spoilers if you're
Right.
playing for your first time.
It's one of those things that I keep hearing about, like, like once every year you might just hear something that's like, oh, Drakengard's pretty cool. It's like, what? I've never heard of that. It's just like that. It's like a cult following thing. Like, just enough people are into it. To
I
keep
only
making
played the
sequels.
first game. I did not play Drakengard 2.
Yeah. Well, there's that one, and then there's the third, and then I did not know this, but Nier is a spin-off in the Drakengard universe.
Yes, I knew that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Although it's funny how I think in Japan the protagonist is like a little boy, and in America it's this grizzled old man.
Really?
Really,
I've never heard of a port change that big. I'm
They're
gonna
like-
go look at that.
look up the difference between the Japanese Nier Hero protagonist and the American one. It's stark.
That's fascinating. I'm gonna go check that out later.
I might even want to link that in the show notes because it's such an interesting. Even side by, you don't even need to see the side by side to see the difference. It's really obvious.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me just because recently I found a series called Ports Center. And it's pretty cool because the whole idea of the show is he just takes a game and he's like, here's all the different ports of the game and here's how they're all so different. And it's kind of funny to realize that before about the PS2 era, like every version of a game had drastic differences between them.
Yeah.
That's only like a more recent thing that got fixed. So it's just kind of funny we'll talk about like Resident Evil and it's like, look at all these fucking random differences between all these versions of the game. And it's like, that would never happen today. Like, there's just no way quality control will allow that. It's like they all have to be exactly the same so that they'll sell correctly. So that's why I find that so interesting, is I just love the idea of like what changes regionally and what changes between port versions. I've always found the idea of like Japan to America stuff fascinating, especially like early like Final Fantasy and Castlevania and stuff.
I know I've said it before, but like one of the most interesting things you can look at when it comes to Japan versus Europe versus America is just the video game cover art.
Yeah, because there's all different like cultural stuff that gets
Yeah.
intertwined and like what they allow, what they recognize.
Like, because in Europe, especially, like you will see generally most of the cover art is just a like a landscape of an area in the game, because that catches their eye, European eye, more, whereas in the American eye is drawn to people. So you'll see most of the cover art in America will have the picture of the protagonist or a leading character in the story of the game as the cover art.
Yeah, I remember it was like an old issue of EGM or something like that where they discussed that idea and they showed a whole bunch of different ones. And there's a noticeable difference also in that American cover art tends to have a lot more on it, as far as just like, like bursting out of the seams with like stuff on the front, and Europe is very reserved.
It's more of a simple is best.
Yeah.
Like if you just look at, for example, I can think of 3 games where this is noticeable, and it's Ico,
Yes, Eco is a great example.
Resident Evil 4,
Yep.
and if you look at the Heavy Rain cover art, it's really fascinating how different they are in each country.
That one I haven't seen. I've seen the Eco one because I know a lot of people who say the Japanese box art is incredible, and it is. It's like been made into a poster many times.
Resident Evil 4 is another noticeable difference.
Yeah, I think when I got my pre-owned version that didn't come with the actual box, I printed off the European version, which is the red background.
Yeah.
That's like just a picture of some dude in like the very back, but it's just a silhouette. Like, it's super reserved looking. Whereas RE4 America is like, check out Leon on the very front with his gun.
And there's also the legendary, like, Crash Bandicoot was legendarily, like, drastically changed between the American and the Japanese version. Because you'll notice in the Japanese version of Crash Bandicoot, he has much bushier eyebrows. Because apparently in Japan, anthropomorphic characters are more appealing if they have bushier eyebrows. Like, if you look at the Ratchet and Clank between America and Japan. You also
Yeah,
notice that
I've
same
seen that.
difference, and it's weird, but it's like those little details that just make one character more relatable in one country as opposed to another country.
Cultural differences are fascinating to me.
Yeah, and it's just if you just take a time to like look at them, it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. So other than that, I guess the big news is I got a PlayStation 4.
Nice.
Ooh,
It's like the Xbox One, but
what
it's the
you been
PlayStation.
playing on it?
Let's see when I press the PlayStation Home button. Let's see. Well, trying to think of like what I played first. Well,
Or what
the
you
first
played?
day,
What did you play that you think is worth talking about?
sure. I was going to say the first day I actually spent downloading everything because it does not support a 5 gigahertz
Yeah.
band, which really blows.
That's par for the course.
I guess it's like, real quick, just to say quick stuff. Like, I played Killzone Shadowfall. That was one of the 3 free games I got. It's whatever. It's a Killzone game. I found the FOV was kind of low, which kind of bothered me, just because of how close I'm sitting to the TV.
I've been
But it's not
noticing
enough to give me
that a
headaches.
lot with like this recent, like with recent generation games, is that in order to for some reason they don't want to like reduce the graphics, so instead they'll cut the FOV
Yeah. I mean, Evil Within is like a great case of they just
or
cut
the
the
order
corners or the order.
or the order.
Yeah. In the case of Killzone, it's the typical horizontal FOV, not vertical, but it's not so bad that I get, sick from it like I usually do. It's just slightly lower than I'd prefer.
Yeah.
Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, it's interesting just because of the quote-unquote new soft skin sweat technology.
What?
They sweat, and it looks real. Remember like when NBA 2K6 came out for the 360 and the whole big deal was like, look at them sweat. It's like that all over again.
Fucking Japan, man.
I don't know. So this will be an interesting one, is I picked up a copy of the new Tomb Raider game. Again.
The definitive edition?
Yes, so I could check out those hot tress effects.
I didn't get that on PS4 because I was okay with the PS3 version.
But the hot tress effects.
The hair physics.
Yeah. Also, it runs at 60 FPS for the most part, which was the reason I got it. So I played through the whole game again. It's still great.
Oh, yes.
It's awesome. But it was definitely interesting because I watched it wasn't really a making of, I guess it was a dev diary, or what they call them these days. And it was just like, what were the differences between the old and the new one? And it was interesting to hear this guy talk about the technology that went into, again, I brought up there live right before this, the idea of like the way her skin reacts to the environment, where according to my understanding, they put some kind of like a mesh on top of her skin that's you can partially see through, so that you can add effects like scars that actually emboss into her body, and you can have sweat and dirt actually go on there. I'm not entirely sure how the effect works, but it's definitely new. It's definitely more noticeable than it was before. And that's one of the subtle things I think is interesting that like nobody talks about, but it's definitely a cool thing for just building atmosphere. The idea of like when it's really hot, you can actually see like just sweat on her body, or like when she gets a cut, you can just barely see that's actually inside of her and not just like a texture on top of her skin. It's interesting.
Remember Uncharted 1 was notable for having the protagonist's shirt get realistically wet when exposed to water.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
That was a big deal at the time, even though now it's kind of like
Why
we know how to do that. Yeah.
Of course,
But
now like it's about.
Remember, that was when the PS3 was first introduced. That was a really big deal.
And speaking of Naughty Dog, I also played a bit of Last of Us Remastered.
Did you play the PS3 version of that game?
Yes. I beat that version. I never played the DLC, and I've yet to play it because I'm playing through it again.
Oh, you should play Left Behind. Left
Yeah.
Behind is so good.
That's what I've heard. I'm about halfway through Remastered, and that's another case of like you can kind of tell it came from a PS3 game, but basically what they did is just a good patch of anti-aliasing on it, and it's the uncompressed textures, so man, does it look good. It looks really, really good.
I mean, the PS3 game looked amazing too.
Yeah. So it just looks good again. But it's pretty cool just to see it and go, replaying, and it's like, yeah, this story is not perfect, but it's a damn good video game story with some really good gameplay. And this time I'm playing it on hard mode rather than easy. So I've definitely had that effect of like getting really tensed up when I'm running low on bullets because like barely anybody ever drops them. There was one point where like one guy dropped 6 rifle bullets, and I was like, "Holy shit! It's Christmas morning! 6 whole bullets!"
Yes.
That was all the bullets I had. Period. You know, oftentimes I'll have like
I tended
2
to rely a lot on stealth takedowns in The Last of Us.
Yeah, I had
It's
to
like-
learn to use it way more than before. Like it's interesting because like the hard mode, and I'm sure survival even more so, changes it so that when you get to a gunfight, it's a big deal.
Oh yes.
Like that is a bad thing to happen if you're getting in a direct gunfight.
I tried to play on Survivor mode, and I think I gave up about halfway through.
Yeah, that seems like the kind of thing where it's like don't play it unless you've beaten it once before and you know what you're getting into.
Unless you want that kind of experience.
You want that pain, but it's cool.
I remember I made a huge mistake. I was playing Mirror's Edge, and I ran through easy mode shooting everybody.
Yeah, I mean that's why I play through
And-
when I replay it every year.
Yeah, but I said I'm gonna play on hard mode,
No, you're not.
and I want to get that achievement for not shooting anybody, and I did that on hard mode.
Did you
Oh my
actually do
god,
it?
that server room must have been bitch for you.
I was like, fuck.
I'm pretty sure I was doing pacifist until I got to the server room and I just gave up. Because again, I play that game once a year,
It's
so it's like I'll just do it
hard.
next
That
year.
particular level is very hard to pacifist run.
For me, it was the server room and also the room where you shoot the truck's engine to make it crash, and then you're running down the flight of stairs, and there's all those people. That room as well, because I'm like, I just want to run past you guys, excuse me, and I couldn't.
Yep, it sucks.
God, that was terrible.
Still excited for Mirror's Edge 2 though.
But
It seriously looks good.
what do you think of the PS4 in the general sense?
I've still been trying to get my thoughts on it. I gotta say, as of this moment, I like it in a very overall sense more than the Xbox One. As far as like the menu design, I like a lot. It's super simple. Having come from the PS3 only a week ago, you may or may not remember this, but the PS3 store lags like a motherfucker.
I still use my PS3.
Yeah, then you remember the
So,
PS3
yes.
store sucks. It is the worst. Like, oh
It's
my
awful.
god, how does that thing still run? So when I went to the PS4,
the
it
old
was
store,
amazing.
like the original store, was so much more responsive that I'm not sure why they changed it.
I remember that because like even last week I just now looked it up again, right before my PS4 showed up because I was replaying some old PS3 games, and I was like, for a while I thought it was my PS3 hard drive or something like that. So looking
No,
up
it's
and
the
everybody's like,
storage.
no, it's just terrible. It's just horribly coded.
Yeah, and the PS4 version is so much smoother.
Yeah, it's which is a big deal because for some people it might just seem like an inconvenience, but that can really change some people's buying decisions. Of
That really,
if it's super simple to buy something without any lag, they'll tend to buy stuff more.
I really don't like shopping on my PS3. I'd rather just do it on my PC and then just download it to my PS3 remotely that way.
And on the PS4, it's not perfect as far as its setup, but I do like just hit PS Now, what's new, what's free. Like that's basically the 3 things I hit every time.
One thing I don't like about the
PS Plus,
PS4
not
store, one thing I don't like about the PS4 store, which is the PS3 store, is where in the PS3 store, you can go to the PS Plus menu and just see new arrivals, and you can just see everything that's on PS Plus sales right at this moment.
Right.
Whereas on the PS4, they don't have that option, and I don't know why they don't have that option in the PS4 store.
Interesting.
Because that would make sense. Like, I want to know, I have PS Plus, I want to know what I can get for free or a discount right now. Why wouldn't that be a category I can browse?
Yeah. I don't know what's up with that. Just real quick, rounding out the collection. I played a bit of Helldivers alone, and I played a little bit with JV, a friend of ours. Have you heard much about that game?
No, I have not.
It's by the guys who made Magicka, and it's a top-down twin-stick shooter, which at first sounds really dumb. But the whole big deal about it is that everything wants you dead, including there is friendly fire. If you lay down a turret, if it gets in your line of fire, it'll kill you. You drop down stuff from the sky like turrets or ammo boxes. If it lands on you, it'll kill you. If the dropship that comes to take you away from the mission lands on you, it'll kill you. Basically, if anything looks at you, it'll kill you. And
Do you know what you should do?
Not get killed.
You should get Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls and play with me on the PS4.
I'll think about it. I'm looking at Devil May Cry, or DMC Devil May Cry on PS4 because it just came out.
And then I can kick your ass in Persona 4 Ultimax.
When's that coming out for PS4? Wait on that
It's never going to come out on the PS4, sadly.
one. Well, you know what? We can play Guilty Gear's Third Sign.
Well, I can't kill Cinderes in that game.
There is a I don't. It's not a tsundere. There is a tropey anime girl who's new in Zerd Sign. I don't remember her name.
Tropey anime girls.
Yep. But Helldivers is super cool. I'll definitely have more to say about that when I get further on. Last view, Resogun, free game. Cool arcade shooter. Better than I thought it would be. But it's an arcade shooter. Whatever. Ollie Ollie 2, I played that with a friend of mine over, and we had fun just passing back and forth. That game is really addicting. It's just a side-scrolling game that plays a little bit like Skate, as far as you flick the left stick in like circular directions to pull off tricks. But the big deal is about like, all right, do this whole level in one combo, and it involves like every time you land, you have to hit the X button at the right time, or else you get a sloppy landing, and it just gets insanely hard.
Have you played any games that are cross-buy or in cross-play with the Vita yet?
I haven't done anything on the Vita yet, but Helldivers is cross-buy, cross-save, cross-play. Yeah. Which is why I encourage that if you guys should totally get it, because it's cross-everything. Mostly cross-play. I'll definitely test that out, but the last thing, and I say this for last because we can actually talk about something here, is I'm playing Infamous Second Son.
Oh boy.
I played it for like 2 hours when I first got the PS4, and then just said, well, this game's boring as fuck, and then quit. And I only recently back to it like yesterday. And I finally got to the point where I got Neon.
The Neon powers are so much more fun.
Man, that game's opening kind of sucks though.
It does. It really does. I remember I decided I was gonna play again. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do an evil playthrough. I got about an hour in. I was like, I don't want to do an evil playthrough anymore.
Yeah, I've
this
had that
is
problem
kind of
with every
boring.
Infamous game. And it's just like I'm slightly warming up to Delsin as a character, but at the same time, he still comes off a lot as just a total jackass a lot of the time.
Are you playing as good this playthrough?
Yeah. But just like the way he acts towards people, he's always like, I got these sick powers, I'm gonna go nuts.
He's even worse as evil. He behaves even worse as an evil character, which shouldn't surprise you, but like...
And I've said before that like I don't always need a likable protagonist, but this isn't quite what I meant when I said that. Like, he just comes off as...
Does Troy Baker help?
I mean, Troy Baker, he does it really well. That guy's got hell of a range. You know, if you didn't tell me it was Troy Baker, I wouldn't have known. But it's... You know, like Fetch seems pretty interesting. I actually like when it does like the like painted backstory.
Really character.
Yeah, like when you first like grab someone's powers, you always get their backstory in sort of like a comic book style. When I saw Fetches, I was like, this is really well
if you
done.
That was interesting. You should play First Light.
Oh yeah, I'm planning to. But it was just kind of funny that like when I saw her backstory, I was like, dude, like this is like 100 times more interesting than Delsin's backstory.
Oh my god, so much so, yes.
And it was in the span of like a minute and a half. They told her entire story, and it's like, this is way more interesting and complex. It gives reason for her actions.
I know, Fetch is his best character.
Yeah, Fetch is
Laura
awesome.
Bailey is best voice actor.
Although I did read, I guess we'll start getting to the complaints real quick. Like, one of the things that really bothered me, just because it's thinking off the top of my head, because it was very recent, is there is a point, like, you know, not like if you meet Fetch, it's literally like the mission after, depending if you choose the good action, which, you know, it's just like, I think the option was, like, it's corrupt Fetch, or not
redeem.
Redeem Fetch.
Redeem or corrupt.
So
I told him about this when I played the game, but yeah, go ahead.
Right. I don't remember if he said this exactly, but this is something that really bothered me as far as... Because I know we have talked about how the karma system is super archaic in today's world.
Yes.
It is so bad to the point that when she's beating up drug dealers like she usually does, if you choose Redeem Fetch, she starts subduing them non-lethally.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, that's cool, that's subtle. Until Delsin just straight up says, oh, it looks like I've changed you. And she's like, no, I just did my own thing. He's like, yeah, but look at how I visibly changed your demeanor. And it's like, you're just so openly saying, hey, I made this moral choice. Do you see how this has affected the game?
I know. It's like, player, look, you made the good karma option.
Oh my god, it's so bad. And like in 2007, or whenever the first Infamous came out, like 2008, whatever, I would have been like, that's
Let me
not
check the
great.
copyright my copy of Infamous.
Like, even when the first one came out, it was kind of not great as far as that system, but now it's like in the days of The Witcher 2 and The Walking Dead and, you know, moral grayness that we've come accustomed to, this total black and white system of just, you are
Infamous
the hero
is
or you are the worst.
Infamous 1 is copyright 2009.
Wow, yeah, it was even old then. But it's so bad when I see stuff like that, and I'm like, God, man, how did you keep this system? It is like really holding the game back.
And once you play First Light and they don't use the karma system in that game, it becomes really obvious how much it holds the game as a whole back.
God.
Because it basically means that Delson is not allowed to have a character.
Yeah, it's like I get what they're going for because well, at least I did back with Infamous 1 as far as the idea of divergent paths and all that. But it's just so incredibly black and white.
In a
and it's like,
developer interview,
always do the good action because that's the ending I want, not because it is the morally correct choice.
In the interview from Infamous 1, the reason they said they wanted to do the moral choice is because they wanted you to play good, but they wanted that decision to play as a good guy mean something. So they add the karma system to the game.
It's a nice idea, but it just did not pan out in the correct way.
Honestly, I'd rather you just make me a superhero and just like let's ignore this karma bullshit.
I mean, even like it could have been better if it was just like here's good and bad actions, but you can just do them. Where it's like instead of just having these direct choices, it's like you can subdue guys or you can kill them. That'll be good or bad karma, but not like these black and white choices that you get.
Do you want to kill the cops or drug dealers?
Yeah.
Oh my god, the evil drug dealers!
It's just so bad.
Well, Fallout 3 had a karma system that kind of worked like that.
But Fallout 3, it kind of made more sense.
Fallout 3 made sense until you could donate 50,000 caps to the church and go from very evil to very good.
Yeah, but that aside, Fallout 3 made more sense because it's an RPG. It's about building a character. Yeah. Whereas in Infamous, it always seems to be like it's trying to steer you towards being good. It's like being evil is the other side of the game.
Yeah.
It's like... And, I've expressed this problem with Dragon Age 2, is that it has the same issue where it's like... Dragon Age 2, you always choose that dialogue option because that's the good one, not because it's the one I want to choose. Because
but it's
I
the
want
one
that
that
ending.
Doesn't lead to being a dick.
Yeah, and same problem with Infamous, where it's like maybe I wanted to. Let's just for hypothetical reasons. Let's say I wanted to corrupt Fetch. Maybe I had a moral reason for doing so, as far as the big picture. But doing that is only evil. It is the worst option available. There is no moral gray ground as far as to what that does. It is the worst. That's all it is.
Of course, it is the same. You're basically doing the same thing. You were saying, I'm going to release her, but I'm going to release her in a good way. Or I'm going to release her, but I'm going to release her in an evil way.
It's just, ugh.
Because, Reggie has a point. She is a mass murderer. You probably should have put her in jail.
It's just, God. As far as other stuff, the setting, I got really weirded out when they just
ended up liking Reggie a lot more than Delson, honestly.
Yeah, Reggie makes a lot more sense as a character.
It's like, well, yeah, you can't just show powers because we've been raised to be afraid of powers, Delson. You understand that, yes?
And then Delson's like, no, I'm totally fine. And it's like, you say that as you wreak havoc on everybody. Even when you're doing the good stuff, you're still incidentally killing people. There is one part, and you've probably gotten through this part, when you're finding Fetch and you get in this, these protesters are in front of you saying, well, if there were no drugs in the street, then you people wouldn't have superpowers. Yep. And the only option is either do you want to shoot them or do you not want to shoot them? And then Reggie's like, I'm glad that you chose not to murder those guys. Isn't that great that you chose not to murder those guys? Because there's no Delson's option to talk to them or anything. And like Delson's like, yeah, I said I didn't want to murder those guys today. It's so that's kind of the thing is that it's not even like it's a necessarily bad game. It's an antiquated game. It's a relic of a time. It's a relic of 2009. Yeah. It's just so weird because if anything, it just shows how far we've come as far as moral choices. It comes how time displaced. Yeah, it shows how far we've come as far as platforming. Even the shooting isn't that great compared to what we've become used to in third-person shooters. Tell me about the spray painting. It's not as bad as I thought. But the funny thing is that when I first started using it, it didn't tell me how to hold the controller. So I spent the first few times holding it normally, and I was like, okay, this cursor's not working correctly. Oh, you tried to tilt it like a spray can? Yeah, so then I tilted it upwards, like with the back of the controller facing the TV. That didn't work. And then only after, like, probably 3 hours, I finally tilted it like a spray can. I was like, oh, the trigger is like a spray can trigger. I wish they'd fucking told me that. Yeah. The other problem I have is that, and I believe we've talked about this before, in fact we did, because I remember that was the joke about video grenades, is that in Infamous 1, the idea that you had electricity powers was a very substantial thing in that it affected everything you did. Like, it affected why you couldn't go in water, it affected where you drain power sources from, and they tried to put some kind of reasoning behind it. It's like electricity courses through your body like natural electricity does. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
By the time they've gotten here, they have thrown any sense of why you chose or have these specific powers out the window. It's like, why neon? Why does neon do this specific thing? Why do I have smoke in neon? It's like, I don't know, because fucking we ran out of ideas.
And what does video do exactly?
But it just feels so weird, because it's like, when I see things like smoke and neon and video and paper and all that, it feels like a drop-down menu for select power for like an RPG. They don't do anything different. There's no logical reasoning for why somebody would have that power or how that works from a biological standpoint. Because again, electricity, it's like, yes, you use static electricity from your fingers. You know, fire and ice get a little weirder. You could still try to justify those really hard.
They tried to explain this in lore as that when a conduit awakens, they can absorb one thing, and that thing can be either natural or a man-made thing, but it is the only thing they can absorb and use, just in general. The thing with Delson that makes him unique is that the thing that he absorbs is conduit powers.
Right. But it just really killed me when I saw neon. It's like, it's the same thing, so it's like, what makes this special?
It's the same thing, but with different properties.
Yeah, and it just really bummed me out, because it feels like Infamous is just really running out of steam, even after that first one. Like, when they had Fire and Ice, it's like, alright, I see you guys are really just kind of just throwing it out the window.
You're probably sick of hearing me say this, but you do have to play First Light.
Oh, no. Like, I'm going to, but it's like, it's just like the Left Behind thing, where it's like, I always play DLC after I finish the main game.
Oh, yeah, you should. You should beat the game first.
I like to see what happens to Fetch.
Like, First Light fixes almost all of these problems.
And I'm not going to confirm this yet, because I do want to write about these, but I'm curious to see what you would think about this when I just give you this idea of an article where I was going to say something. Is that I was going to say, I think Infamous would be better off because of this and because of Festival of Blood with the PS3 version. Infamous as a series might be better off as a set of $15 to $20 expansions following one conduit story and their one power. So it's like, instead of Infamous Second Son, it's like, here's a fire conduit, $15 story. Here's a paper conduit, $15 story. Here's a neon one, $15 story.
I could be behind that. And
like comic book.
Are you going to do the origami side quest like the?
I tried, and then it wouldn't upload to the servers.
Did you sign up for a paper trail account?
So you have to do that first.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes, you do.
I'll give it a
you had
shot.
to sign up for an account to do this alternate reality game, because the way it works is that you play quests in the story, and then you go back to the online game, and then you use the evidence you find in the story in the game to basically advance by discovering it's
Remember
weird.
when ARGs were a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Infamous Second Son is basically like the tech demo of tech demos.
Yeah, it really is.
Like you know, like motion controls is still a thing, right? Let's do some spray paint just to show off some motion controls. Touchpad controls are a thing, right? Let's do the touchpad for like one scene and never do it ever again.
The fucking touchpad, like, I get it for the power sucking thing as far as, because I try to think
it's
of things
intuitive that way.
Yeah, like, I try to think of controls in terms of how intuitive they are.
But you know that one scene in the beginning, it took me like a whole minute to figure out how to get the touchpad working on the one scene at the start of the game. You know the one I'm talking about.
Oh god, I probably do. I don't remember.
Where you had to get through the checkpoint.
And you had to
put your finger. That actually took me longer than the spray paint. I didn't realize you had to move your hand. I always just thought you just had to press the pad, and then you'd be done. I didn't realize you had to move your hand on the pad.
I think I figured it out by accident, where I accidentally just slipped my thumb, and then it was like, oh, it moves according to that. Okay.
Like for me, the spray paint was intuitive. It's the scanner that threw me off for like a whole minute.
Yeah, but I think I'll see when it comes to the end. But I think I stand by my idea that Infamous, like the comic books that it's trying to be a part of, like, you know, that style's trying to go for, it'd be better off as a series of like one-shot stories. Like, I could go down with like an Infamous once every year or two that's just like 1 4-hour campaign, no karma system, that, one conduit story.
The two games everyone loves, Festival of Blood and First Light, are the ones that don't have karma systems.
Yeah, and they're just one story. There's no overarching plot. It's just like, it's a side story, and it's fun.
Yeah, or like, oh yeah, Cole has to fight the army of vampires before he becomes one himself permanently.
Like
That's a cool premise. Let's go with that for an hour or two.
And I think, this might just be me personally, but from all the superhero stuff I've seen, I'm kind of tired of the idea of superhero saves the world. I like more personal stories. So the idea of like Festival of Blood, which is just like Cole saves himself.
Where it's you
in
against
this one
Bloody
town.
Mary.
Yeah. Where it's it's a lot more personal. It's not about you saving the world where it is in Infamous 2. It's just like you saving this town, or technically maybe just yourself.
In that sense, you might be able to appreciate Second Son a bit more, because it's not about saving the world either. Not really.
Yeah, but it still is about the bigger DUP and all that. Whereas
so what do you think about all those bioterrorists?
God.
Bioterrorists.
This game, I want to love it, but it
does not do subtlety at all.
Yeah.
It is not, subtlety is not a thing that Infamous Second Son does, even if in the least bit.
I feel like Infamous really just needs an entire like deconstruction and reboot. Like, well, not necessarily reboot in the sense of like start over Infamous 1. You can just keep giving them subtitles as opposed to numbers.
Yeah.
But even if they are full $60 games, which I wouldn't appreciate, I would definitely like those smaller scale stories. Just, it needs a reboot of the gameplay systems. They need to rethink how powers work and how they can make each power set unique. Because again, if they were doing like those small stories, they could afford to be more experimental with, well, what unique properties does paper have beyond I can hover, I can shoot a laser beam, or I can run fast? It's like, what unique properties does smoke have that I can mess with? Because in Infamous Second Son, there's one thing they all do, and it's one traversal mechanic. Neon runs fast, smoke goes through pipes.
These are different properties.
Yeah. But I want like completely unique sets of attacks for every single one. Which again, we talked about in episode 26, which you should go check out if you're more interested.
I can't wait till you unlock video. I can't wait till you unlock video.
Is that the next one?
Yes.
Great. I
can't wait till we talk about the guy who gives you video powers, because man, that guy is a loser.
Oh, great. Well, I'll be sure to talk a bit more about it, but it's an interesting game. I'm definitely going to finish it, but it's I'm not going to restate what I already said, but Infamous. And
yeah.
I believe that's it for me. I didn't really play any PC games that I can think of. I didn't play any 3DS.
Infamous wasn't a bad game. It just felt like it didn't belong in that time period.
Yeah, it felt like it should have come out like back on the PS3, like towards the end or something. It feels really weird in today's world in a post Witcher 2, The Walking Dead, and great moral choice games.
Yeah, that came out around the same time Walking Dead did, didn't it? Or like
the second one did.
Like afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, second one did definitely.
Yeah.
Which is when it I remember back then. I remember reading reviews where they're like, "This system's a little archaic, isn't it?" It's like, "Yeah, it is." And then Second Son comes around, they're like, "This system's really archaic, isn't it?" Like, "Yeah, it really is." So we're getting to the next one and be like, "This system is bad."
Even Chris doesn't defend Infamous' karma system anymore, and he used to for a long time.
Yeah, it's weird. If anything, I'm really curious to see what they do next. But my advice: short stories. That's what you want.
Yeah.
It seems that
again, once you finish Second Son, you have to do first, right?
I am most definitely
immediately afterwards.
I think Fetch is way interesting, and I'm like, I want more Fetch.
Oh my god!
The game will not give me enough. I'm sure of it.
Laura Bailey as Fetch is a really good performance.
Yeah, like she's way more interesting than Delson, and that's why I'm like, I want to play First Light.
She is so much more interesting than the protagonist of the game.
And I thought Cole kind of had some problems, but Delson is just fucking whatever.
I prefer Cole to Delson.
Yeah.
Delson's not bad. It's like just the characters around him are just so much more interesting. Like I appreciate Reggie's character so much more because he's like the guy that talks common sense.
Yeah, but again, as you stated, the biggest problem with that is the problem that plagues all these these moral choice games is that they can't have a full-fledged character with attributes that are blank slate.
Because you have to make sure that whatever character you make is compatible with both the Saint, with Mother Teresa side, and the Baby Eater side of the equation.
And it kills any sense of like real personality depth he could have.
Yeah. Well, the other characters, since they don't have karma systems, they're allowed to say, "Oh yeah, you're a dick," or "Oh yeah, you're a patriot, you're a real saint, dude."
Yeah, I mean, like even Zeke from Infamous 1 and 2, like he had a lot more character just because he was written that way. He had a full arc that he went through from Infamous 1 and 2.
Yeah, and it was a really good arc. To the point where it was much more interesting than Cole's arc in those same games.
God damn it.
where it was him getting over his desire to have superpowers and saying, you know what, that's probably not a good idea.
Well, it's a lot of him also just about discovering that he can, if he works hard, he can have his own power. Which, his power was just
And he can help people
power.
in his own way.
Yeah. But it was a great story of, like, jealousy and, internal
And
rage.
getting over it.
Yeah.
He got over it. Which a lot of characters don't do for some reason.
Well, we could probably go on for hours about Infamous, just saying that game has problems, but I'll talk about it next when I finish
It's
it.
a very fascinating case study.
Yeah. Assuming it's not that long, I should be able to finish it before next week, even though I'm working a lot.
It's a very short game. You could probably finish it in a weekend.
Well, I got 2 days off, so we'll see.
Yeah, I started on Saturday, on one Saturday, and I finished by the end of that Sunday.
Damn. All right. So that's it for me, which means Garrett. What do you have?
I'm watching my brother play Halo Reach, and I forgot how good the game is. He's teabagging every enemy he kills because he's playing on Legendary. My week is I need to bring up. I watched the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 videos that Markiplier did. So that was, and so I kind of got the entirety of the game just by watching videos.
I watched a couple of those of Game Grumps' Five Nights at Freddy's 3 videos, and it's interesting how different that game is to the other two.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Have either of you guys watched the game theory videos about like the backstory of that series?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
Or better yet, have you read the
Guy, stuff like
Kotaku
that.
article by Patricia Hernandez, who did like
No,
how did that series come to be? That guy originally made Christian games. He's a very devout Christian.
There was actually a Jim Sterling video where Jim Sterling talked about that in one of his YouTube videos, where
His original
originally
game.
he made a game that was supposed to be a happy children's game, but the characters in the game really like ended up creeping everybody out.
They look terrifying because they look like the Freddy's characters. So
it actually upset him for a long time. Then he's like, you know what? I want to own this creepy character stuff. And then he made Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, you should, Brandon, I'll give you a link after the show, but we should link to the Kotaku article that explains the whole history of the series and the game theory episodes about the story of the games.
I'll do that in the show notes.
Cool.
When we eventually put this up.
Yeah, next year.
God, but yeah, I've been watching the Mark. I've never played a single Five Nights at Freddy's game.
Me neither.
I just watched the videos, and I've gotten enough out of it. It looked really good though. And if the guy's like, "Oh my god, I need money," I'm gonna be
like,
fine. I'm gonna
all
be buying
credit
the
to the
game.
guy. He has figured out a formula, and he is doing fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of people are wondering if this will be the last one, though.
Yeah, I don't think it
wonder.
will be. But I've also been playing Warframe.
Yeah, I need to play more of that. Are you
Oh
playing on
my-
PC?
Yes,
Yeah, we should play that
the
sometime.
fucking game is incredible.
Also, I'm gonna stop leaning away from the microphone.
I love Warframe so much. League of Legends got some new VUs, some new visual updates for a few characters.
Oh,
Thank
And-
you for telling me what VU
I
stands
didn't know
for.
what that meant. What is visual? That's not a skin, is it?
No, well, there are new skins, but there's a lot of visual updates.
Are you
for
talking about
certain-
like a patch to change what the character looks like?
Yes, there are
Okay.
patches to for Warwick, who's
Updating textures and whatnot.
yeah,
Look at those textures. Look at them pop.
the texture pop.
Yeah.
My texture just popped.
You're a man now.
I should go to the doctor to get that looked at.
Probably should. It might be dangerous.
Anyway. So, what you got?
I got a role as a news anchor on a little animation.
Was that the Zoophilia one you were trying out for? Or a different one?
That's a different one. Someone who actually works on the zoophobia one.
Huh. You got work. It's the first step, man.
Yeah, I
Garrett
read.
Krasinski, professional voice actor.
That's right. Put that shit
I
on your
op-
Twitter profile. Let people
God,
know.
I can't wait. But yeah, I opened up a Magica by Clive Barker, and I read out a news story as if I was a news anchor, and someone was like, "Hey, you got the role." And I was like, "Yeah." So
I don't
I'm
have
doing-
the voice to voice act. I know my voice is terrible, so I wouldn't even bother.
Oh,
I've always wanted to do voice acting of some sort. I just didn't know what for. I might go look out for some stuff. I don't know.
yeah.
The thing with voice acting as opposed to real acting is that you don't like if you're an actual actor, you're basically typecast based on how you look.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're voice actor, if you know how to change your voice, you can be pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
It's true.
That's how Yuri Lowenthal is is all characters. He's in fucking Uncharted. I'm not kidding.
He is? Who is he?
He's a nameless mercenary in Uncharted.
That's incredible.
He does mercenary voices in that game.
To be fair, like Noah North and Troy Baker also have a history of just being everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, like
I
as in,
didn't know
background
that
characters.
I didn't know that David from The Last of Us was Nolan North until someone told me.
I didn't know that until you told me. But yeah, like did you know like Noah North used to always play background characters like Battlefront 2? He was a background character. And also, there's a guy, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. He's the guy from Asura's Wrath, and he's always been background character.
Liam O'Brien?
Liam O'Brien. That guy's great!
He's Gaara from Naruto.
Yeah, that guy's awesome. He needs more roles.
Yeah.
He does a great gruff voice.
Liam O'Brien has a pretty good range on him, too.
Someone go hire Liam O'Brien for more
like,
stuff.
he's also Akihiko from Persona 3.
That's right. He's a good, like, deep, like, you know, like, trembling voice.
Yeah.
Anyway, talking about voice acting. What's up, Garrett?
No problem. I also have been listening to Beck's newest album, Morning Phases, the one he won the Grammy for. It is a flawless album.
Was that the one that came out about back in October or so?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, I remember listening to that when I was in Austin for Austin City Limits. It's a good album.
It's fucking amazing. His intro, his first track is only 50 seconds long, and it's so beautiful. And then it perfectly fades into track 2, which is Morning, which is my favorite song on the album. Oh my fucking god, that song, that whole album is I can't get over how amazing that album is. Sublime.
I have that with music sometimes.
Sublime.
I've only been listening to like somewhat mediocre stuff lately, so yeah.
And what's funny is I know a lot of people who, as soon as he won the Grammy, people went, "Oh, that's great. Who's Beck?" And I'm like, okay, first off, fuck you.
He's the guy who did Loser, right?
Yeah. It's like, secondly, you've heard E-Pro, and I'm goddamn sure you've heard Loser. Everyone's heard Loser. Everyone and their grandmothers have heard Loser. You like, I'm a loser, baby, and like some fucking 106-year-old woman's like,
I have actually never heard that song.
106-year-old lady.
I have actually legitimately never heard that song before.
You've heard it in the background of something before.
Blasphemous. You need to listen to Loser. It's goddamn incredible. It's his most well-known song. Like, everyone's heard Loser.
You've heard
but yeah,
Loser.
And you've heard E-Pro, which is na 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 na. Beck is awesome. But his newest album is fantastic, and I think he definitely deserved that Grammy with that. I was actually kind of pissed. I was kind of pissed at first. I was like, why not Jack White with his newest album, Lazaretto? And I liked that album, but as soon as I heard Morning Phase, I was like, oh nope, I see why Beck won. This is great.
Yeah, I didn't keep up with too much with that. I have a really bad time of keeping up with popular music because I tend to just go deeper and deeper into weird, obscure, experimental indie shit.
And anime music.
I guess. Like, that's what my manager calls it when I showed him some song that was like some band called Tragic Comedy, and I was like, oh, check this out, and he's like, it's got anime girls on the cover. It's like, dude, it's people screaming, don't worry about it, it's fine.
Does he like people screaming?
Not really, unless the music's good. I was showing him this song, it's called Birthday of Eden. It's a really cool song that has like a really trancy guitar in it. Very cool. I'll let you know later.
Speaking of music, for my birthday, Dylan bought me the album Daisy by the band Brand New. And
I saw someone wearing a shirt that said that today, and I was like, what the fuck is Brand New?
It's a great alternative band.
Well,
I love
when you buy something from the store, you can be considered brand new.
I guess.
I love every single album that Brand New has produced.
Is that the guys who did the You Look So Good Standing There, Your American Apparel Underwear? That's not Brand New.
I don't think so. No.
I keep getting that name confused.
Well, it's probably pretty old, actually, so yeah.
I also keep getting that name confused with Newfound Glory, which is really weird.
But Brand New, they have... I like... There's an album they made in 2006 called God and the Devil Are Raging Inside of Me. And that's a really good one because it has their most well-known track, which is called Jesus Christ.
Okay, this is not the band I was thinking of.
It's a really good...
Adults.
It's a really good track. However, I like Daisy because it's a darker, thrashier album. In fact, I have God and the Devil Are Raging Inside of Me on iTunes, and it's labeled as alternative. Daisy is labeled as punk rock.
Oh, iTunes,
That's
you so funny.
that's how thrashy it is. Like I was letting my mom listen to it, and she was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" I'm like, "Yeah."
Well, then you should show her some of the shit I listen to.
The intro is called Vices. That's the very first track on the album, Daisy, and the track is the first minute is like old World War II like xenophone kind of like it's like something you'd hear in what's that song from Inception, the Kick song.
Oh, the Hans Zimmer track.
Yeah, it's a very old like it's a woman singing, and
Yeah.
it's very old school, and then all of a sudden, out of fucking nowhere, it cuts, and it's just some guitar like da 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 da. It's great. You
So
have to
some
listen.
grindcore. That'll
Yeah.
get you.
And then Paul was my stepdad was like, "What is the guy saying?" Because it's literally him like, "Why?" Like, yeah, like
Screw which
screaming.
all the music I listen to.
Yeah, it's the guy screaming like in Cthulhu tongue. It's oh my, and my mom and Paul are like, "I don't like it." I'm sitting here going, "Oh my god, oh."
Man, do I have some music to show you.
Seriously, if you can, the entire album is on YouTube. I know this because I would listen to it in my car before I got the album. Now Dylan bought this for me for my birthday, and I'm super happy. Go on YouTube, look up Brand New Daisy.
I mean, I've got Spotify, so I'll listen to it there.
Yeah, or do that, and just listen to Vices, skip Bed, listen to At the Bottom, because it's fantastic, listen to Gasoline, because it's good, and then listen to the rest of them. Be Gone is a weird one. Be Gone is, it's the guy singing and a banjo being played, but the guys, it's weird. It's like a DJ, like as soon as the guy starts singing, it's like a DJ is turning on and off the volume, so instead of talking normally, it like when the guy's singing, it cuts out like that. It's weird. It's like it's cutting out because the guy's when the guy's singing, the volume keeps like getting turned off and back on like really quick.
I was gonna say they have a lot of really weird related artists because
Yeah.
they have like straight up like punk music, like Jimmy Eat World as related.
Oh yeah, Jimmy. Good.
They have and Newfound Glory, and they have some alternatives like Taking Back Sunday and Circus 5, and then they also said they're related to post-hardcore music like Finch and Thursday.
Yeah, they got.
So I guess they're a bit of all that.
Daisy is their darkest, thrashiest, and I'm gonna be completely honest, downright strangest album, and it's one of my favorites because it was so good. It was also their last one. It was made in 2009, so I'm scared. I hope they make a new one because I will eat that shit up like candy.
Let's see what
Listen to Jesus Christ, and then listen to the entirety of Daisy, the whole album. It's fantastic. Anyway,
I'm agnostic.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So are they.
Huh.
Yeah. Will I get the gold share?
They take from traditional hardcore and punk pop, which is what makes their style.
What else have I done besides music? I'm gonna get off music. Played Cards Against Humanity and Scared All My Friends, which is
Naturally.
a lot of fun. I love Cards Against Humanity.
Can you explain what card you played to do that?
Can
There
that
were
be said out loud?
Yeah, there was White People Love This, and I put I can't remember what I put. Everyone put like one person put everyone put like petty little stupid cards, and I put like racial segregation or something like that. Or no, it was like genocide or something like that, and they were like, "That's gonna win."
Ethnic
there
cleansing.
Ethnic cleansing. Thank you. I put I posted like 3. I won 3 games in a row. People were like, "You're a sick fuck." I'm like,
Remember
yeah.
we used to play that game all the time amongst the 4 of us?
God, we need to play that game more. We need to do a let's play of that game. It'd be easy. It'd be one screen.
We need to get Tabletop Simulator so I can flip the table when I lose. You can play that game on Tabletop Simulator. I've seen it done.
Cartoon.
I prefer just the one that the plan we usually play because it's just usually just so easy to set up.
Yeah, but don't you want to flip the table?
No.
Just hit the flip table button constantly?
No, don't.
Oh, but this
I want to
table
play.
needs to be upside down.
But then how do I play? I have to lay on the ground to play.
You gotta flip the table upside down, and then you play it on the upside down table.
You guys know Brian Lee O'Malley. You're geeks. You know
Who?
Brian Lee O'Malley. He wrote Scott Pilgrim versus the World. He wrote
yeah.
Yes.
What was the other
Yeah,
one that he
he wrote
wrote?
the Scott
Because that's the one I actually like better. I can't remember what it's called.
He wrote Lost at Sea, and he wrote Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, was Lost at Sea the other one that was about like a girl traveling with her friends? It was like a road trip story.
I don't know, but I read his newest book, which is Seconds. It's about a girl who eats mushrooms, and when she eats the mushroom, she can go back in time and change one thing that she did wrong. And she's trying to make her life perfect, and it turns out all these small little changes that she made in the past have huge consequences on the future.
Let's see.
It's really good. It's called Seconds by
So
Brian
does
Lee
she have a
O'Malley.
tasty
Oh.
plasma?
Oh, the comic I was thinking of, it was Lost at Sea. That's
It
what
was Lost at Sea?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I prefer. That's
It's-
my favorite work by him by far.
It sounded like Lost at Sea. I liked Scott Pilgrim, but I liked Seconds. Seconds was much. It was very dramatic. It wasn't as funny. What's funny though is in Seconds, he puts Scott Pilgrim and Ramona Flowers in the restaurant that the girl owns. Like they are customers. If you look in the background, you see them, as well as Steven Stills and all these other characters from the comics. And he also in Scott Pilgrim, there's a scene where he's talking to Scott Pilgrim's eating bread with Ramona Flowers, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'd totally eat bread forever." And she's like, "You get fat." He goes, "No, why would I get fat?" She goes, "Bread makes you fat." He goes, "Bread makes you fat?" That's actually a line in Seconds as well. This girl's eating bread, and she's like, "You're gonna get fat," and she goes, "Bread makes you fat?" It's so funny. I wonder if when he writes another book, he's gonna add that joke again. That'd be kind of funny, actually. But yeah, so that's a good book. Today I got a new pair of shoes. I know that
This is the hot news for the day. Hot takes.
They are Converse high tops, so they're like total hipster shoes.
Mhm.
But they have Andy Warhol's famous Campbell's soup pattern on the side.
You're going for the real hipster shit.
Yeah, it says mine are. My brother got the red ones that say tomato soup. Mine are black and they say black bean.
You are so hipster, it's hurting.
What is your favorite Campbell soup? Go.
My favorite Campbell's soup is chicken noodle with stars.
I just like plain chicken noodle. I don't eat the stars.
I mean, chicken noodle's good, but I like the noodles being shaped like stars because
That's cool.
The Campbells do ravioli. Was that Campbell?
Yes,
That's Chef
no,
Boyardee.
that's
Oh,
Chef
Chef
Boyardee.
Boyardee. It's all the
but
fucking
yeah,
same to me.
it comes in a can.
It comes in a red fucking can and I eat it.
I live in a relatively not too well off household. You get used to canned goods.
Yeah, you just get used
We
to
ate
can.
that for a long time. back
What
when I
about
was
the
growing up.
What about the tuna? That's Sunkist. I don't give a shit.
Albacore.
It comes in a can, and so it's obviously
It's edible.
fucking Campbell. Yeah, it's obviously Campbell because it comes in a can. It's like Campbell doesn't do all cans. I don't care. What about olives? Campbell does soup, not olives.
Oh,
I
I
don't-
hate olives so much.
I hate
You
olives.
should work where I work.
My
Olives
entire
everywhere.
my entire family loves olives. I'm the only person in this house who fucking hates
Yeah,
olives. I
I'm an only child, so it's just my mom and dad, but they love olives, and I just can't. Oh.
I hate olives.
Oh.
My little sister, every time she's like, "How are we related?" I'm like, first off, just because I don't like olives doesn't mean we're not related. She's like,
That's exactly how that works.
yeah, I'm like, shut up. I hate olives. But yeah, so I got
I also hate coleslaw.
I like coleslaw. My mom doesn't like it though. It's okay.
Oh.
I know a lot of people who don't like coleslaw. I love coleslaw. I love weird things that some people don't like, and people like things that I don't like and think is weird. So whatever. But yeah, so I got new Converse high tops, and they've got Andy Warhol's famous Campbell soup pattern on the side, and it's awesome. I got new sunglasses. They are Ray-Bans, and they are blue on the inside and black on the outside. So that's awesome. Those shoes, I was walking.
You could say that those sunglasses are.
Yeah, I was
hot.
actually walking
I
funny.
quit.
so I wouldn't scuff up my shoes.
Yeah.
No. They think gamers are terrorists. I fucking hate that show.
I was doing a David Caruso impersonation
Oh, I thought you were doing CSI.
from CSI Miami.
Yeah, CSI's fucking stupid. I hate that goddamn show.
They have a new CSI on called CSI Cyber.
Yep, my mom was watching it, and I was like, "This is the goddamn worst thing."
I had to watch it just out of sheer morbid curiosity.
It sucks. My mom's like, "Isn't this good? Don't you like this?" I'm like, everyone with a computer is a bad guy. Fuck the show. I hate that goddamn
The first
show.
episode was no joke. Someone hacking into someone else's nanny cam to steal their baby.
Yeah. It's like, oh, and then the guy's driving. He's like, oh shit, it's the fuzz, and he drives into a river. I'm like, Yeah,
It's CSI.
If you own a computer, you're a child kidnapper.
Unless you're a police officer or
Unless
a
you're a
hacker
police
kid,
officer.
or a hacker kid that got recruited by a police officer. Oh, wait, they're
And
FBI,
then
they're FBI agents.
And then there's the black guy who's like, oh, obviously, I know this code because the tattoo. And he's like, I know exactly the order of these numbers. It's going to go from smallest to biggest. It's like, shut the
Well, no, his magical program identifies good code as green and malware as red code.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works.
My mom's like, isn't this show great? I'm like, I'm going to fucking shoot myself. I don't want to see this
And then
show.
there's the part where they go into their morgue, and it's not an actual morgue. It's like a digital recreation of the corpse in 3-dimensional space.
Yeah.
Which no one would ever sign off on because it's just too expensive.
I know. I watched it and I hated it. I hated every soul-killing fucking. I hated every second of it. I can't even make words. First off, I've been drinking, and secondly, I hate that show. That's why I can't make words. I hate that show.
I remember the end scene where with Patricia Arquette's character being asked, well, why did you join this force? And then she explains her backstory in vivid detail instead of doing the thing, which is show, don't tell.
Yes. She's like, there was this guy, and he stole data, and that data got people I know killed, like my clients killed. And he's like,
she was a psychologist who got hacked, and now she feels violated, and that's what she explained her entire backstory. And like, you could have shown this, and that would have been that much more powerful. But
it could have been the beginning of the episode or something like that.
Yeah,
but or the whole episode, and then she gets recruited, and I'm like, okay, that was good. But no, on top of that, she explains her backstory, and then he's like, so why are you here? And she goes, I might catch him. I'm like, okay, obviously that's a subplot. They're setting up a subplot. She's going to be confronted with the guy. It's like NCIS. I don't care.
I love at the end she goes, after every case I go to the same spot to think about how I could have catched that guy.
Yeah, it's like, fucking shut up.
Why did you explain that? You're not supposed to explain that part.
I hate that show. So yeah, I watched that. What else? Oh, I at midnight last night, Hotline Miami 2 was released, and I pre-purchased that shit, and it's fucking good. It's
Do you like hurting people?
I love it.
But that's only one of the 3 questions asked.
Oh my god, that game is so good.
But it's Hotline Miami, right? Like, is there any
like
noticeable new wrinkles to the series?
The story is further developed. It's really good. If you liked Hotline Miami 1, please pick up Hotline Miami 2. You're doing yourself a disservice not playing it. And even if you didn't like Hotline Miami 2, try Hotline Miami, or if you didn't like Hotline Miami 1, try Hotline Miami 2 because you might like it more.
Does it play any differently?
Not really. It's pretty much the same game. It's just it's got a better story and it's got some better twists and turns. I haven't gotten too far into it. I've played for like I played like the first level and then I stopped because we were doing the podcast. But you have to play it. Let's see. I drank a shit ton with my friend Ben last night. That was goddamn incredible. I killed a bottle of Fireball whiskey.
You're insane.
And I drank half a bottle of amaretto, and it got to the point where I forgot. I was like, I woke. I was like, oh, my friend Ben sent me a. He's my best friend, Ben. He sent me a a poem by, I can't remember who it was, but he sent me a poem, and the entire poem was like, "Get drunk. It's the best thing in the world." That's the entire poem, and it's by like this serious like poet, like this like really not well known poet, but like this really good poet who was very well known for his craft at the time. And
Sounds
I'm like,
a similar something to what Ben Franklin said at one point about alcohol.
yeah, it's weird. And I was like, okay, cool. Oh, like that's a good poem.
Oh,
and then
I just remember the Ben Franklin quote was, "Beer is proof that God loves us." That's what it was. Because my dad has that in a plaque downstairs.
That is a great quote. I would totally. Your dad's correct in framing that. That's a great quote.
Shit goes up on the wall.
But yeah, that's a great quote.
People drink alcohol.
This is a fact.
That is also a good quote. Anyway,
Brandon Carey, 2015.
Brandon Carey, 2015. I'm gonna make that a shirt. But no. So I got So we drank, and I was like, "That's a great poem." And then I woke up in my bed, and I'm
That's
like,
life.
"Oh." And I'm like, "Oh, how did I get here?" So I asked him what happened. He goes, "Oh, you pretty much went to bed with your headphones on and you passed out." So I ended the call. I'm like, "Oh, okay, thank God." Thank God that was it. I didn't like say something. He's like, no. You pretty much went to bed with your headphones on and passed out, and I ended the call. That was about it. I watched you sleep for a while, and then I ended the call. Like, oh, thank God.
I watched you sleep for a little bit. That was pretty nice.
That's kind of creepy.
I'm like, oh, thank God. Nothing weird.
Like someone
Reminds
watching
you
me
of
sleep. That
paranormal-
would be weird.
Reminds me of that
Totally.
Paranormal Activity movie where the
The
girl
little girl's, like
records
standing there. Yeah.
all of her sleeping is recorded because her friend watches her sleep on Skype.
He's like, I made sure you were asleep and like safe.
And then I watched you
and
for a couple hours afterward just because I'm creepy like that.
I remember that one of my old roommates in college used to
Hi,
Skype.
man.
He was one
I-
of those guys that would Skype his girlfriend like 24/7.
I
So
may or
he
may
did that thing where like they would watch each other sleep, and he was like, why don't you just end the call?" And he's like, "Why bother?" And it's like, 'cause it's creeping me the
Because
fuck
she's-
out, man. I'm
because
Because-
just talking to you, and she's just sleeping in the background.
I understand that you want to watch her sleep, but the problem is that I don't want to have her watch me sleep.
Well, it was in a different room. Like he was in the other room, but it's like come over and I'd just be talking to him casually. I'd just look over and be like, "Oh, that's just happening." Okay,
you could
great.
That is really fucking creepy.
You could feel the creep through the walls. You're like,
At least in
something
their
weird's
case, like,
going
it made
on.
weird, somewhat sense because she was in Japan and he was in
I'm
America.
getting a contact creep from this.
Yeah,
It's just weird.
that still doesn't make sense. But today we went to Golden Corral and I ate the rarest steak. And, like I asked for rare and they gave me fucking
They
raw.
just take it out of the fucking
Yeah,
cooler
yeah,
and say,
Fucking
yeah.
freezer, thaw it out, and
the
like
guy
here
takes
it
it out of
is,
the-
steak
The guy takes it
tartare.
out of the guy took it out of the freezer, used his Zippo lighter to light it a little bit. He goes, "Here you go." It was.
Sorry,
I
I cooked it
s-
too much.
I cut it, and my mom said, "Oh, I didn't know they served sushi here." And I'm like, "Oh, this isn't sushi. This is steak." She went, "Please, for the love of God, don't eat that." And I put
Well,
it
you
in my
can't.
mouth.
There is steak tartare. That is a thing that you eat, which
My
is just
mom's
raw steak
No.
cut up.
And I looked at my mom. I was like, "Mom, this isn't sushi." And she looks at me questioningly, and I realized she wasn't joking. She seriously thought it was sushi. She was like, "That's not sushi." I'm like, "No, it's steak." She's like, "Fucking don't put that in your mouth. Do not put. You are dead to me if you put that in your mouth." And I looked her in the eye. I put her in my mouth. She goes, "Oh my God, what have you done? You're gonna be so sick." It was so good. I love rare steak. It was so good.
I like
I'll be-
mine.
there's always
I
that
like mine
fear
cooked
of, like,
medium.
There's always
Yeah,
like that fear of like, problems as far as health issues, but my understanding is that if it's prepared correctly from start to finish, you won't suffer any problems.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's all about preparation.
I mean, I felt queasy, but it was worth it. That was a good steak.
I know
Um,
I do
I-
know people who eat raw steak, like that's just it's a really nice thing. Some people enjoy quite a lot.
It's I
Like
will
I
be
said, there is
surprised.
such a thing as steak tartare. That is not like a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like raw steak. I like not raw, but I like rare. And what's funny is I used to like well done when I was growing up. When I was a little
Yeah.
kid, I used to.
I did
love-
when
too.
I was a child, my dad burnt everything on the grill. So that's just I just acquired a taste for well done because it was either well done or burnt. So I might as well take the bet.
That was the better side.
So you got it well done, like all the time. You got it very well done.
See, my dad did it the opposite way, where I used to get well done because he'd always cook it like, super rare. Although as I've grown up, I get it like medium well, which is like it's pretty red.
I like medium. That's what I
it looks like it's got like color.
My mom,
it's got like that grayish color.
I like some red in my.
Yeah, but like medium rare is like it's red except for like the outline, like that's it.
Yeah, I like rare. I like if it's still alive.
Whole thing's red.
If it's still alive and bleeding, I'll eat it.
Are you a werewolf?
My mom pleaded with me. She's like, please get medium. So I asked for medium, and I will be completely honest. The medium was really, really good. I liked that rare. But yeah. So that was my week. I guess I'll go into a slight news deviation. Unreal Engine 4, Unity 5, and Source 2 are all being released right now. For the low price of free.
Is Unity 5 being free?
I think Unity 5.
I thought it was like still like a lot of money from a developer. I
was
saw.
it? Okay, I know
Unity's like $1,000 for the license.
Yeah, maybe they have like a free version of it because I'm sure Unity cannot just release it normally. Like they would.
I don't know
because everyone else is going
free.
They
may have to make a lot of money off that asset store.
I know Unreal Engine 4 is free. We were going.
Well, it's technically free, but you're paying them royalties. It is free to use.
Okay.
Unless your game makes over $3,000, it is totally free.
And past that,
you will pay royalties past $3,000 in income, which is honestly if you're someone who's starting out and that's just something you need to play. You want to play with Unreal Engine 4. That's something you're not going to make that much in a single game.
Yeah, I mean it's like $3,000 is like if you're a super indie developer who makes like a couple of games a year, that's fine. And even then, even when it's past that, it's only 5%, which to my understanding is pretty nuts.
It's a really good deal, especially if you're trying to teach people how to design video games. That's a great tool you now have access to.
Yeah, it seems like it's partially on towards indie developers, but it also does seem like it's for big companies too. Because as I learned on the Bombcast this past week, Unreal has really, really dropped off as the engine to use. It seems like a lot of developers since the start of this generation have been using in-house engines.
Yeah.
I'll just say Unreal was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Ubisoft has its own engine now. EA has their own engines.
EA has Frostbite. Ubi has the Ubi engine and Ubi Art.
Yeah.
Like sports games have their own engine and such, but it's like The Order ran on its own engine. But like Unreal 3 was like the thing. So with 4
and if you're an indie developer, you're basically using Unity at this point.
So I think it's whether it was intentional or not to specifically go for the indie market, which I'm guessing it was. I think that's a really good move on their part to just say, well, Unity is decently cheap, so let's just undercut that by 100%.
Of course, the problem is a lot of Unreal games run like utter trash on my PC.
Yeah, I'm sure part of it's a matter of optimization. Part of it may be the assets they use are super high quality because that's generally what it's designed for, whereas Unity is like 2D sprites all the way up to pretty decent 3D.
Yeah.
But that's kind of thing is that like the best that Unity can put out is generally like the lowest tier Unreal games you'll see as far as graphics. Like Unity, it puts out some pretty good looking stuff, but nothing that's like, holy shit, that's Unity. It's like no, it's always a Unity.
Well, I mean,
game.
Hand of Fate was made in Unity as an example, so it's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, it's perfectly serviceable, especially if you're doing a not realistic art style. Unity's fantastic, from my understanding.
Yeah, if you're doing stylistic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so I'm in game design, and so like our teacher flat out said, you are going to be using Unreal Engine 4 next semester. We're not going to be using Unity. We were supposed to be using Unity, but
Unreal's cheaper.
Yep, yeah, pretty
much. For
the
low cost of free.
What's really sad though is what we've been using right now. We've only been using Unity for modeling. However, actually we use Blender and then we import it to Unreal Engine and then we use it in that. What we've been using for game design and stuff like that is Game Maker 7.
That's the Yo-Yo Games Maker, right?
Yeah.
I really hate Game Maker.
Yeah. I mean, it works for like the most basic of tutorials that I took in high school.
Like for me, if you're
Yep.
if you're going to make a game maker game, for me, it's honestly easier for me personally just to write that same code in C
Yeah.
or C++.
Oh my God.
I did
Oh
in
my
high school, and
God.
I made a basic arcade shooter, and like that's the best
Yeah.
you can put out in Game Maker.
Yep.
Yeah, like at that point, you might as well just do it in C and straight up C++.
Yeah.
What's funny is that was actually the last thing we had to make was an arcade game. We had to make
Yeah.
it so coins worked and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You have to put
yeah.
coins inside your computer.
But I really fucking
no.
hate. I really hate Game Maker as an engine.
You click on a coin, and every time you click on the coin, you only have 3 coins. But every time you click on the coin, you get 3 lives.
I
It
think
was-
if you're making a 2D game, you're better off just learning C++ because you'll get more skills that way
Or
and more
Python.
useful skills.
Python works. We're using Python for programming.
Yeah.
But,
The
but
only reason
yeah.
I say C++ is because a lot of game programming is done in C++.
Sure.
So if you're gonna go that way, you might as well learn the skills that you're going to use in the industry.
God,
yeah.
but-
My
but-
friend down in Atlanta is thinking about making a game with Unreal 4. He already makes music. And
Unreal
writes.
4 that makes more sense to me to use like an Unreal or Unity because 3D stuff is a lot harder to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been bouncing ideas off each other for games since like high school. So
Like, unless
when
it's
he was talking about making one, I was like, yeah, let's make a game. So we might be doing that in summer.
Unless it's isometric 3D, in which case you're basically doing a 2D game, just making it look 3D.
Or,
Then you're
no, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do fucking Guilty Gear Third, which if I remember correctly, I believe that's Unreal. If I remember.
it probably is.
No, like I'm pretty sure that was like the big deal. Is that was like one of the first Unreal 4 games, and you know how that game looks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me check that real quick.
But yeah, so those coming out Unreal, we use Python for code, but for programming, and then we use Blender for modeling, and then we use Game
Unreal Engine 3.
Maker for games. And honestly, our games that we make, our teachers like these are really good, and I'm like, this would get 3 stars on Newgrounds. People,
Well, I mean, you gotta start somewhere, man.
Yeah,
it's so disappointing.
I want to tell you, your first game, no matter what you do, is always going to be garbage.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing that, you know, me and Brandon have talked about that in terms of writing, is that you have to, like, look high, but start low.
You have to
Like,
fuck up
I
in
think
order
it's
to be
really
good.
cool that you have all these ideas, but you can't just get years of experience
I know.
in a semester.
You can't get good at this stuff until you fucked up a lot.
yeah.
I've learned that through writing.
I think I talked about it on the podcast already, but I wanted to make that game Iron Aurora.
Yeah, we talked about that
we
2
did.
weeks ago. That was the week I was gone.
God, and then I talked about there was a game I wanted to make where it's basically what Watch Dogs was going to be until the guy pulled out a gun.
Yeah, I
Yep.
would have.
Yeah,
I loved it until exactly that moment.
Yeah, someone posted an article on Cracked. He's like, I was loving Watch Dogs, and then the guy pulled out a gun, and I went, no, it's pretty much gonna be that game. You're gonna be the Antichrist, or some demon, and you're gonna be you're going to be using demonic powers rather than guns. Like you're gonna be disarming people, but pretty much it's gonna be like blood magic and stuff like that. You're not gonna use
Lucius.
That's what I was gonna say.
Lucius.
It's
But
a game
yeah,
where you play the son of the devil and these devil powers to. It's Hitman. But
It's
with Devil
Hitman
Son.
with devil powers.
oh, that sounds awesome.
I was kind of hoping
Well,
when we said that, like I was hoping for a game about using technology in the surveillance state, but without any violence.
oh, that'd be
More
cool.
about monitoring, observation,
yeah.
and puzzle solving.
Yeah, I could do something like that. But
Exploration.
I wanted to make
I
a
would
game
think
where
I love Watch Dogs more if Aiden wasn't immune to being tracked by CTOS.
Yeah.
Like if you had to actually navigate the surveillance state.
Oh, what if the game had it so
It was the easy way out, wasn't it?
you could go on the multiplayer? What if it was like Payday 2 where you know how it has crime.net? What if it was
Yeah.
like that on multiplayer and it was like this guy's doing really well in his campaign and it's like if you actually end up stealing all his data you get a payout. So it's like CTOS is sending players
Well, that
after
was
other
supposed
players.
That's
to
what
be
the
like
multiplayer
that.
is structurally speaking, but it falls apart in that it just matches.
You have
players
no
randomly.
incentive to do it.
Yeah. When a player comes, there's no like what's the word I'm looking for? Contextual reason for stealing data. It's just you're stealing data.
God,
But you're right, Brandon, in the sense that like they really took the easy way out with like
Yeah.
blurring out his face and all that, when it could have been a lot about how does Aiden circumnavigate the system with
Yeah, like there could be
analog.
so many like interesting stealth opportunities by not only like figuring out how to use the system, but how to avoid the system using
It
you.
reminds me a lot of go check this out, the original trailer for Splinter Cell Conviction, and how that game had a sort of blend in option that basically involved pulling a hood over your head when guards came by.
Exactly.
It's about hiding your face to people.
That's what I thought would be cool. Is like if he has that face mask, like what if you use that, and if you use it, the CTOS doesn't recognize you as Aiden Pierce, but they also see you are masked, therefore you look suspicious.
Yeah.
I should track you a little more closely than I do the other people.
It's kind of funny
Like,
because
you could have
Hitman Absolution had that,
Yeah.
where like you tip your hat down away at people, and it's like,
Of
why
course.
doesn't fucking Watch Dogs do that?
Yeah.
Of course, in Hitman, it seemed kind of silly in that context, but in Watch Dogs, it would make total sense.
You know what I just realized?
Should
You
make
know what
a game.
I can't believe I just realized this. In Watch
Video
Dogs,
games are terrible.
video
So we
games
realized.
suck. Why am I making?
Fuck
Why
video
am I
games. Podcast over. We're done.
Why am I
quit
trying to
video
go into?
games.
Why am I trying to go into a career where I made them? Oh
Okay, you're gonna make the good ones. You make the ones we're talking about.
But no, in Watch Dogs, you know how sometimes you'll hack somebody,
Yep.
Yes.
and it turns out that person is a plant, and he starts calling up somebody, and he's like, "Yeah, this guy just hacked me. The fucking idiot has no idea." How does Aiden Pierce know they are making that phone call?
Don't they just make the phone call in front of him?
They make the phone call, but how does he immediately go, "Oh, they're making a phone call to CTOS," and turn around and be like, "Kill it," and
Well,
throw their
doesn't
phone?
he hacking their phone so he can record their audio?
Well, he's using
Does he?
I thought that's what he does.
I thought he just steals their money.
like the whole point of the CTOS app
No,
is
he grabs
just
personal information from their accounts. That's how you see things like, here's their
Alright.
social security number, or here's like an email from them.
I don't know. I thought he.
Oh,
just
there is that
stole
whole
their money.
problem of everyone being
the hero.
reduced to an age, an occupation, a salary, and a random factoid about
Yeah,
them.
but that random factoid is like oftentimes comes from text messages or emails or stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Garrett Glazewski, age 23,
the
is a
problem is-
furry.
I think the bigger problem is that, like, I understand your problem, and it's just a matter of Ubisoft didn't contextualize that UI very well.
Yeah.
That's definitely a UI problem. It's a user interface
Because
issue.
it's like, I'll hack somebody, and then I'll walk a block away, and all of a sudden it's like, on my minimap, this person's making a phone call to CTOS, and I have to run back that block. But it's like, how the fuck would I have known they were
It
making
would have
that
been
call?
so interesting to see someone having to like avoid being detected in this police state.
Make it a fucking stealth game where the idea is the whole city is against you. God damn it! Good game ideas. Throw it out the window.
I think it's called DC. I think you're talking about
And discard
DMC.
the open world shit no one cares about.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I like that initial E3 trailer, even with the gunplay. Just this idea of sort of The Last of Us, where it's like, if gunplay was a last resort against people coming after you.
Yep,
But
of course,
again,
in the
check
game, gunplay is the only resort.
Yeah, but again, check out that original Splinter Cell Conviction trailer, because some of the things that Sam does, because he doesn't, like, a gun is a very rare commodity, is that in one case, he's fighting a guy, he takes his handcuffs him to a stairwell railing, and knocks him down the stairs. It's a lot about using, like, your environment to get around people.
That's cool.
And there's options to, like, sit down at cafes and, like, hide your face with a cup of coffee or something like that.
I
And that game got scrapped. For Splinter Cell Conviction, it's a good game, but it got scrapped from that.
I actually still have an EGM article where they had screenshots of Splinter Cell Conviction, and it still has like the old rugged bearded Sam Fisher, and how it's like
trailer for that. It's on YouTube.
and how it's like, oh yeah,
I remember. I know what you're talking about now. I remember that.
Yeah.
That
It's
game
like
blew my fucking mind when I saw that. I was like, that is a new, because that's when Assassin's Creed had just come out. The idea of hiding in plain sight
Of
was
social
brand new.
stealth.
Yeah, and I love Splinter Cell Conviction a lot. I think it's a great game, but
it's a really good game.
They jumped off from such a high, amazing idea to just play it safe.
You can't even hide bodies. You have to You have to take the guy hostage and carry him over to where you want to dump the body, and then snap his
Original
neck.
Conviction looks so cool. Someone needs to make that game.
Yeah, and
If you cannot hide bodies in a stealth game, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you have to take the guy.
Someone has screwed up somewhere.
We could probably go on that forever, but at some point.
You have to take the guy hostage and then carry him over to where you want to hide the
Okay,
body.
we're verging on 2 hours.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. But anyways, Splinter Cell Conviction. Yeah, I remember there was also a thing where it was like, you can flip a table and use it as cover and stuff like that. But
We started by this talking about Unreal 4.
Yeah, we did.
We got
anyway,
we got all the way to Splinter Cell from that.
Yeah, I'm actually done.
Podcasts are amazing.
Yeah, I'm done. I am done though. Good news. So.
All right.
And Chris, what did you? Oh wait, you're not here.
I don't know if he did that intentionally or not.
It was totally intentional. It had
Everything
to have been.
is. It's all planned. All from the beginning.
I was actually waiting for Brendan to be like, actually, that was
All
an
right,
accident. I'm like, nah.
I
So this
guess
is
real
the
quick
texture-
as... Yeah, well, I was going to say, before we're done, Brendan, did you post anything or got anything new to
I
shout
wrote.
out?
I finally posted that Outlast article for the people, for like the 3 people who still care.
The hot Outlast news?
Yeah, my opinions on Outlast. It honestly, in total, and like I'm not even kidding. I had totally forgotten that I played that game until I saw that that was the article I had to post next in my queue.
Have you finished the whole game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard the Whistleblower DLC is better, but I played like 10 minutes of it and said, well, I
Well,
still
I
don't like this game.
I had exactly, like I said when we talked about on the cast, I have had exactly enough Outlast for me.
Yep.
I don't want any more. I don't want any less.
Okay. Trying to think real quick. As for me...
And hopefully soon, you and I will be able to unveil our new season of Interactive Friction, hopefully sometime soon.
Yeah, depending on when this goes up, we'll have our bonus episode for Season 1, and I'm going to try to make a teaser for Season 2, but that should be going up... No matter when you listen to this should... Interactive Friction Season 2 will start Monday the 16th. So, look forward to that.
Yeah.
March 16th,
It's gonna be exciting.
2015. We're
I know
pretty-
Sam's excited. I know Sam's
I'm
excited.
pretty
I know
fucking
I'm
excited
excited.
about this game. I can't wait to go back to play another crap after this. It's gonna be great.
You played a good game this time. Spoiler warning.
No, it's Interactive Friction. Don't get it confused. All right. I don't think I have anything new to post because I just been working on stuff for IF and podcast stuff. But you can look forward to that later. Until then, as before, you can send in questions, comments, stories, whatever the fuck. Something you want Chris to read out loud in his radio voice. Something you want Garrett to voice act for. Have him read
Something
a
you want me
monologue.
to say in my dolphin lover voice.
That's right. Send all those to dtexturepop@gmail.com or at dtexturepop on Twitter, where we will post updates for the episodes there, as well as whenever we start these Let's Plays, those will also get posted there to keep up to date.
This is the Texture Pop signing off.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.